I like the newsroom aspect.
Do you need a stack of papers?
I know. I feel like I need a little fan and stuff, and a little fan with a streamer on it to kind of blow in.
Incoming transmission. Initiating data compilation protocol. Compilation complete. Enhancing. Initializing data playback. Code alpha. Begin playback.
Hey, welcome everybody to another Big Giant Head podcast, episode number 8 for Wednesday, November 29th. And this time, you can actually see me, and you can see us, because I have Tim, my buddy Tim, with me this time. And I've talked about you quite a bit.
I love this
on
podcast.
the podcast before. I made reference to you.
I've made references
over and over and over again.
Big heads.
Yes, and you're the reason why it's called
yes,
Big Giant Head podcast.
We have talked about that, haven't we? The Big Head, why it was Big Head podcast.
Yeah, let's go over it again though, because it's kind of funny.
It is good.
Yeah.
Big Head,
especially the way you explain it. Because
yes,
if anybody doesn't know, you've been making video games
a while
for
a little while. It's been professionally for over 20 years, and so I've worked in games for almost 30 now. Freelance stuff before that, but that was really young. I mean, I think some of the first stuff was just a really long time ago, like 3D art, back before when 3D art was like crazy.
Yeah, doing competitions for
yes.
new graphics card that never.
Yes, competitions for animation.
I told that story too.
Oh my god, that was so. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
so crazy for a $2,000 graphics card now that you wouldn't pay 2 cents for.
Yeah,
it was like, because it rendered that graphics card that I was trying. This was in 1989 or something like that. Was, I believe its big claim to fame was it rendered things at 1280 by 800. I think that was it.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it rendered them in 24-bit color. So that was like, it was
all the colors.
All the colors. It was unbelievable.
Yes.
It rendered, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Big Head, well, the Big Head thing for me is, well, it's about games. So I have a theory, and I don't know that it hasn't been completely proven, but I do feel it's significant. Yes, I do feel it works.
100% proven.
Yeah, it works for not just games, but movies and any kind of creative endeavor, and
any long form.
Yes, any long form creative. It could even be a book. Arguably, somebody could talk about big heads in there. But what the idea is that
I would like to see that though. I would like to read that.
Yeah, I think it's in Lord of the Rings with giant statues at the end.
Yes,
that was pretty quick. That was early in it though. So the thing is that what happens is you get to the point in any creative endeavor where you've got a bunch of ideas and you start to run out. And once you're running out, you peter out, you lose some steam, and you start going, well, what can I do? What can I do to kind of spice things up? And inevitably, arguably, the first thing somebody does is put giant heads in their game of some sort. In other words, they go, well, this area could use as a giant head on a cave wall, or a giant head carved into a mountain, or a giant head statue. And we talked about this because there are several games you can go through and almost look at their development period, and it's sort of like the Cretaceous, the
okay, they're out of ideas now.
Yeah, and, and then here's where the dinosaur wipeout happened because there's a big head in here. Yeah, because it's like you can just tell
the moment.
Yeah, the moment when you hit the big head moment in any game, you've crossed a certain threshold, and you're just sort of saying like, all right, look, I just want to wrap this thing up. I don't have time to come up with like a new alien race. I don't have time to come up with a new flora and fauna. I'm not going to come up with this new alien tree with weird little fizzles on it. I'm
different kind of mushroom. I'm
just going to put a bunch of big heads in here. It's like
what do we have already?
Yeah, we got a small we got a small head here on this one guy. Well, why don't we just carve a statue?
How does it look when you?
Just turn into Mount Rushmore. Just turn into Mount Rushmore and be done with it. And that's kind of it. I feel like that's, and it's just, but it is funny because a lot of games have big heads in them. Like they've got, at some point they put in like a big face of some sort. They put in a gigantic,
huge statue in the background, or
huge statue.
A big skull.
Big skull.
A lot of big skulls.
Like Big Skull Mountain. There's always a Skull Mountain somewhere, and there's always like, but even we have it in Boston 1. We have a skull explosions, and we've got skull planets. I think we've got like kind of suns that are have giant faces in them, not quite exactly look like human head, but the idea is there. And I mean, it is one of those things where you're just like, a big head fills up a lot of space and everybody identifies with it.
That concept was wildly entertaining to me.
Well, it still is. It's one of those,
obviously, because I was like, the podcast, big giant head podcast.
Because it speaks to that whole idea that people have when they're, it's hard because you're working on a game for a long time and you sort of get to the point you have to decorate a bunch of levels. I mean, I know you're going through that little bit of that now. We should talk about that too. That you got to kind of fill up a lot of space and really things like
that you have a currency up here.
Yes,
it's finite,
very finite,
and you kind of run out and you're like, the big head.
You big head, and that's kind of the default start.
The funny thing is, I started with big heads with Savage.
Oh, there you go.
Like the title screen has the tower and a
giant big head,
big fucking head.
Yeah, big head on it.
Right there, immediately.
Go big or go home. Go big or get a bigger head.
Yeah, go bigger.
Yes. Go bigger if anything else.
Bigger head.
Well, because it works. It is one of those things that
it's something you can always do.
You can always do it. That's the best thing about the big head thing.
Yes.
That's why it works so well, is that you can basically at any time.
Everybody knows what it is when they look at it,
and they identify with it,
and they know that it must mean something big.
Yes,
because it's
something big. It's a big thing.
They don't even have to walk themselves through this.
Yeah, no, it's instinctually.
Logically, yeah.
It maybe even like primal, like the equivalent of seeing a giant dinosaur or something. You just know that there's some trouble going on over there, and when you see the big head, you're like, something's going on over there. I should go check it out.
Either it's a god or it's gonna kill me, or it's both.
It could be both.
Yes.
And maybe if I'm really lucky, it'll erupt out of the ground with a giant body and it'll chase me around.
Yes.
Like in this game. That's the ultimate hope of all big heads, is that they're attached
to some
life. Yeah, that they're attached to some sort of a monstrosity that you can fight in the game.
And get something cool afterward.
Yeah, because you can see how many games now have giant creatures running around that are effectively big, and it doesn't need to be a human head either. It could be an animal head, it could be a bull, it can be anything.
Any head.
As long
as
it's
head. Big.
Yeah, if it's animal, it tends to work better if it's a skull, but even that doesn't matter. You can really go all out. There's Boss 101 is a kind of a boss rush game, but there's quite a few Jotun, I think the Jotun, and that's kind of a boss. It's kind of a boss game. Jotun, yes, Jotun. That's probably a better way. But yeah, it has kind of a boss rush aspect, right? They've got all these monsters running around that are super gigantic.
That game's full of big giant heads.
It did. It did. And there was even, but right before that, there was another game that was sort of a boss rush big monster game too. I mean, that Titan Souls. That's it. Actually, wow. That was good. That's exactly it. It's Titan Souls. And it had kind of each boss had its own little thing. Some they're big jellies and weird things. I think I got that game and I played it, and it was pretty fun. It was definitely a well executed game in the sense that it was very beautiful and it had production values that were quite good.
There's some impressive stuff in there, mechanically and just visually too.
Oh, it's got the Hyperlight Drifter is the same way, where I was, I didn't know what to expect of that game, Hyperlight Drifter. When it came out, I was like, what is this going to be?
Big giant heads in there too.
It had big giant heads. Yeah, it had to have big giant heads because everybody hits that. It's hard.
It's hard to do ancient civilization without
not have a big giant
heads. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because everybody's seen Egypt. They've got big giant heads all over the place. The place is littered with
Sphinx.
it. Yeah. And then you go to Greece or Rome, and there's gonna be big giant heads on every
Argonauts.
Yeah, there's Argonauts. Everybody knows about the giant soldier standing there or whatever. There's huge. There's big giant heads everywhere. It's a staple. It's a staple of history.
But I think it's more apparent in a game that has a ton of stuff.
Yes.
That isn't necessarily a bunch of big giant heads, and then you start to see the big giant heads, and you're like, oh.
Yeah,
that was the big giant head moment for them.
Yeah, big giant head. That is the moment when you have it happen. It is a very distinct, creative moment when I think it's almost like you've worked hard, and you probably end up taking a break for. My theory behind it is you took a break for a little bit. You were intellectually, creatively bankrupt for a little bit, kind of recharging. Maybe you saw some movies, and then the first thing you do to kind of get the fire stoked up again is put some big heads in, because that'll kind of it's like Flint.
Let me see what this looks like when I just go.
Yeah, it's like, oh, let me scale up a big head. It's it's like gas and flint and sticks and stuff. It's kind of to get you going again.
All of a sudden,
yeah, you're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'll leave these big heads in.
Maybe I'll put some little heads.
Yeah. now if I had some little heads to go with it.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
So good. Civilization's coming back.
But you had brought up Boss 101 in there, and it's big giant heads.
Yep. There's a lot.
You recently released a game called Boss 101, and anybody that listens to this knows about Boss 101 or watches my YouTube channel or
Yeah, it's
the
out.
Twitch thing.
Out
And,
on Steam.
I've been all about Boss 101 for a little bit here. And you, November 2nd was when you
November 2nd,
Released
almost,
your game.
almost a month ago. Released it a month ago.
3.5 years.
3.5 years of work.
Yeah.
It wasn't, three of us, Manone, Joshua, and myself. Joshua, lead programmer, Manone, artist, pixel artist, animator, and myself worked for 3.5 years. And it was self-funded, and we didn't do, a Kickstarter. Now, whether that was a good idea or not, that's, for the big giant heads of the future to debate.
There are pros and cons to
There are
doing-
pros and cons, and there are pros
Things
that
like
now
that.
I kind of wish we had done it, because there's obviously the built-in audiences you have for you did your Kickstarter, and you got a sort of a built-in group that's immediate advocacy for the game. Like, you get them, they're all going to say, like, we love this game, we want it to happen, and it's, to most sense, I find that Kickstarter crowds are it seems they're quite a forgiving and understanding group overall. Like, they want the game to happen because they've already paid for it in some ways. They're sort of like, I don't think they view it as Kickstarter pitches it, which is Kickstarter says to effectively, this is a donation, or not. You're not really paying for a product as much as you're paying for this guy to realize something. I don't think there's a definite one-to-one, although now I think that people are debating that is the case. In other words, you're saying I'm going to finish the game so they get a game. But yeah, I think we self-funded it, and when we released it, oh my god, like it was. Well, we released it during your live stream, like you were streaming the game at the time. You were doing
That was fun.
you were doing a playthrough. It was amazing, and I remember, I got up in the morning and I didn't know you were doing the playthrough, so this would have been the early morning of November 2nd, Central Time, United States, and I got up at like 1 or 2, and you were already playing for I think a little bit, not long, but.
That wasn't planned or anything. It was just kind of
Yeah.
oh shit,
It was great.
Tim's game is coming out today.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was
Might as well play it.
It was so good, and to watch you play it, I got up early that morning because we had anticipated releasing it 9 Central. So yeah, it was a ways away. It was like 7 hours or 8 hours away. It was quite a ways, and I got up, and then a couple hours later, Joshua got up, and we were checking things, on Steam. This is a release on the Steam platform, so there's all these little boxes, and Steam is sort of for anybody that doesn't, for anybody else that doesn't know, Steam has a very nebulous interface that's it's quite you almost expect to see hieroglyphs and Sanskrit in it, because it's such it hasn't been redesigned or updated in what seems like it's like AOL 1997. It's
and I don't know for sure because I've only had access to it since like 2015.
Yes.
Jeez. But I would imagine that it's looked the same.
Yeah, and it's so like clunky. Like it has the two-step thing, right? Where you update something on your Steam store page, you update something on the front page or whatever. Basically, it's got this weird sandbox where you can update things inside your store or the release for the release. And then you hit save, but that doesn't actually publish it. That just saves it. And then you got to publish it to make it official. But then if you want to release your game, you have to publish that too. And it's just, there's just all these weird things. So the release of the game, you have to like go through this whole step-by-step process. You have to make sure obviously the prices are set and all that. And we had done that, and we set the launch discount and all that. And I remember we were watching, I think I told you this already, we were watching your stream, and like I said, you've been playing for a little bit. And Boss 101, hey, there's a lot in it, but if you wanted to kind of play through it, just a straight playthrough, you could do it in under 8 hours. It wouldn't be that difficult to do it. And you get it. You could obviously play it longer, but
you could do a basic.
Yeah, you could do a basic A to B and get and play it at a relatively good pace. The game is at launch it was $8.99. Now it's $9.99. But the point is, you were playing it, and I remember I think 5 o'clock Joshua got up. We're anxious this morning. Oh, it's gonna come out today.
It's the big day.
And we were like watching, and I remember going like, we're sitting there watching your playthrough. Like Joshua came in and we're watching. I go, hey, he's gonna finish before 9. It wasn't for sure. And then like as if on cue, you're on screen playing. We were sort of communicating with you through Skype, but you were sort of just playing the game, and you were like, you had the controller. You're like, well, let's go look inside the Gopher world and see what they're doing. And you basically just sort of diverted your gameplay into this one little side of the game where I was like, that's weird. He's going to chew up some time. And I like Josh, I was like, it seems like it's going to take him a little longer if he's doing this now. Like he's playing some Endless Boss and doing some different things.
Milking for time.
Yeah, and I didn't think, I thought, like,
Stall him.
I wonder if he knows he must be aware that he's kind of watching his clock and seeing like, oh, I'm just going to make sure. Right.
I still wanted to do that stuff.
Yeah, and it was legit stuff, and I was like, okay, he's checking it all out. He's checking it all out, and then like Joshua and I think I mentioned to him, I said, well, why don't we just release the game a little bit early, maybe an hour early, and it'll be nice because he's heading into the last stretch of the game, and if we release it, people could have an option to say, okay, I like what I've seen, I'm gonna purchase the game and I'm not gonna see the rest of it. I can watch the ending myself, or I can, maybe if I'm interested, I could see maybe a little bit more what's in here. But either way, I could buy the game instantly once this whole thing is over. Or if I'm excited right now, I'm gonna buy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did. We went and released it right then. And we just went through. And
that was good timing. Because
it was good.
I was just about to fight the last boss, and I was like,
yep.
okay, you don't want it spoiled.
You're heading right into the end.
Go buy it right now.
Yeah, you headed right into the end. And
stop watching
great.
me. Go buy the game.
And you hadn't played it through with some of the features we added, the phone calls.
No, that was I had sat with you guys and also played on my own, like much earlier.
Yeah, you were the first person to get a build. You actually got the first build of Boss 101 Steam build.
Like a unbalanced a lot, like some of the story stuff not added yet.
Yep.
And
there was a bit of story stuff that was not dropped in until.
No, I couldn't believe the jump in like playability.
Yeah, it was a lot of
with
work.
The finish thing. I was like, oh, cool. This is actually like things matter.
You know what's funny about that, and it happens, I guess, in game development, it happens in anything, where when we gave you the build, the first playable, and then we got to that last bit, the release build, basically the day of release, I would have told you when you got that earlier build that we were minutes away from finish, that we had a tuning pass that would have lasted maybe about 13 or 14 minutes, and we'd have had the whole thing done, and it would have had some balance. Yeah. The time between you getting that build and I think us announcing release was about a month, and so much got done in that time that it seemed like day and night. Like I look back on that, and the one we gave you, the early one, was rough.
Yeah, it felt like you guys had gone back and like spent another 2 years.
Yeah, it was man, it was so many. Well, because I think we watched you or somebody else, a few other people, we started giving out Steam keys and watched them play, and it was incredibly influential. I mean, that's always a good thing, right? That's another advantage of a Kickstarter, is that you arguably can give out a beta set of keys or have a playthrough, and then people can give you feedback, or you can watch them online and play the game, and you can just like, oh my god, he gets stuck on that wall so often. Like I didn't think that was a problem. I mean, that's what we had a lot of. Like even now, when the game got released, we've spent the last 3 weeks tuning and updating things. And I didn't even think they were that necessary at the time of release. I thought the release version was amazingly good.
Yeah.
And we still added a lot of stuff that ends up, it isn't just bugs. It was just like, we call it quality of life-ish stuff, where just, the way you equip something or the way some information is, difficulty that was added.
Or shit you probably forgot about, or
we didn't.
There's so much going on in something like this.
Yeah, and that's a big advantage of when I worked at bigger companies. Not to say this is the amount of work I spent, and I'm sure you spend on it. It's the same as if somebody is working in AAA games, where that's where I spent most of my time working in. Any one person in AAA works their ass off, guaranteed.
Sure.
Any one person working on a game at home is going to work his ass off, probably as much as more. The difference is in a big game company, there's a lot more oversight. A lot more people play it and look at it.
Several filters in place.
Several salmon jumps worth of getting out of something. Like you can't get out of that pond unless you cross quite a few bridges. And it's that's the one thing I was probably doing independent game development. I think that was a big thing that hit me, was that the amount of oversight that
I got to do this myself.
Yeah, it's all on me. It was all on me, and it was like, and it really,
like if Joshua or Manone don't catch it, like you have to. If
the core group doesn't catch it, or sort of the initial, maybe the Kickstarter group or the initial beta group or whatever, they don't catch it, you're just not going to see it. And at a game company, it's very traditional to have I don't know, upwards of 40 to 100 people playing the game before it comes out. And this is just QA, average QA group. And I mean, they're very into it. And these guys, QA is incredibly, at times they seem incredibly misunderstood for what they are. It's a really talented group of people. Almost all of them are avid gamers, and almost all of them are knowledgeable.
I guess you have to be.
Yeah, well, you've got it. They have to,
and you'd have to not mind playing buggy ass broken weird crap.
and they've got to think about. They just not only do they get to play the game in probably the worst state it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
But they have to be the master tacticians because they're writing up bugs and they're basically going into the dragon's mouth every day and complaining about a game that the developers know isn't done.
And have a good memory.
Yes.
Like be able to retrace and
yes.
Like, okay, this happened.
Yeah, they're like
half an
they're
hour
like
ago.
little
This
Sherlock
how I
Holmes.
triggered this, and yeah,
every one of them is like a little detective, and they're all smart people. And I worked with so many of them, and they're all like really almost to the person. All of them were really nice, like in terms of very gracious. They'd come over and like say, hey, I was, the team and I were playing, or I was playing, and these other guys had this concern. Is that the way the game is supposed to be? And they'd sort of like ask in a very nice. They wouldn't say like, this game sucks. Or there really wasn't any of that. Like it was almost always a very.
You make it better for me.
Yeah, it's like this isn't. When I was playing Persona, I don't remember any of this. Like they were really good guys, and guys and gals. Like everybody was, again, really talented. So that all was not available, in terms of, unless you go through a publisher, which we did not. So yeah, we would play, and then when we watched some playthroughs online, it was just like,
yeah.
Like there was just people were just like
visibly hurt.
Oh my god! Like sometimes, I mean, just stuff that we thought was so obvious. And again, it's just our fault, hubris. My fault. My fault, really, as sort of the tactician behind a lot of the design of the UI and stuff like that. Like there were things that just seemed so obvious, and then you just watch people get like stuck in the command center. Like you saw that we have the elevator button to leave because people were banging around in there, and they just to the game.
How do I start the game?
Yeah, how do I start the game? How do I get going? And that's just a fault of the UI. Like if somebody's having that much trouble, there's a moment where you go, okay, look, they got to learn, but then at the same time,
and then there's like people that just get it.
Yes.
Like it's like they played it before or something.
Yeah, and
so it's like, who do I?
It's tough because you can't lean on.
Cater to? And do I even touch anything?
Well, as long as the people that get it number over 1 to 10 million, you're okay.
Yeah, and that's really the only thing you can do. Is
it's like
how many did and how many didn't.
Yeah, how many people got
3 got it, 1 didn't. All right, well I guess.
Yeah, you're in a good ratio if you've got more people that get it than don't, and it's still like the jury's still out a little bit on the Boss 101 just because I think we don't have a big enough sample size right now to really easily tell, is the game a successful across the board endeavor? Is it like, has it succeeded in the sense that, well, it's always, I mean, as I say, it's a success in the fact that we finished it and it's the game we wanted. We really feel like we did what we wanted.
Yeah, I played it. It's an awesome game.
Thanks. We feel the same way. I love the game.
And that's not just me being, like we've been working on our
well, you got me into the game
like in tandem almost. So it was obviously way more exciting for you guys to launch, but I was kind of living vicariously through some of that because I was like, I've seen this thing from start to finish. And we regularly, we go get coffee and bitch and complain and
we met.
Talk about the whole process.
We talked first at a coffee shop.
Yes, yeah, that was
coffee
neat.
bean.
Yeah, you emailed me because of a Game Maker,
correct?
And you saw Savage on the Yo-Yo Games
forum.
Saw
thing. Savage thing,
and I saw who you were.
Yes,
and like I looked you up and I was like, oh shit,
yeah,
this guy made Planescape Torment.
That was a long time.
Do I want to meet him?
Yeah,
I'm kind of scared.
Yeah,
I was super intimidated.
Really?
Because I'm this little like upstart.
We're all
I'm making a thing on my fucking computer by myself.
I was excited to meet you.
Oh god, this guy's been like doing stuff from Planescape to Darksiders.
Yeah, Darksiders 2 was the last game.
And then you're just like a cool, awesome, like
friendly
guy. It wasn't like
it was. Oh my god, that was so crazy too. Because I was, I contacted you because Savage. I saw Savage. I saw the thing for, and I also saw that it was Game Maker, which is the engine at that time.
Oh god, and you saw it when it was super ugly.
Yeah, you were about to do the Kickstarter. You were about to do the Kickstarter. You had just because I remember I
did the Kickstarter in 2014 February.
Okay.
And we met before that.
Yes.
And I was like kind of going like I think I'm gonna do it. People were asking me about a Kickstarter.
Yes.
So that was when I was like, maybe this is a good idea. And that was right after our apartment had burned down too.
Yes.
So it was kind of like I had been kind of waffling around with this game, and I was like, I don't know if anyone wants to play this. And then I started showing people on Twitch, and that's when people were like, "Is there going to be a Kickstarter for this?"
See, that's great.
So I was like, maybe when they start asking, that's when,
It's so good. Like that's the way to go. I'm glad that it's so good that you did that, because I don't even know if had we not spoken, I don't know what would have become of the potential of Boss 101. I don't know if Boss 101 would have gotten made if we hadn't spoken. Not to say something wouldn't have gotten made, but I don't think Boss 101 as it stands would have gotten made, because before I ever met Manon and Joshua, I had spoke with you, and Game Maker at that point was, I got it, because I got it, the free version I think they had, and I started working on games, making a game inside there. And I remember then I went on the Yo-Yo forums and looked for a coder, programmer, and
I remember you talking to you while you were weeding through some of those people.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story, and this is for everybody that's ever done anything like this. Like, so I go on the Yo-Yo forums and I say, hey, I'm looking for a coder and a pixel artist, but I said mostly I wanted to find somebody that had Game Maker experience, did the whole thing, I'm Tim Donley, blah blah blah, here's the web thing, here's all this stuff.
Somebody who ideally knows what they're doing.
Yes, and what exactly, somebody who knows what they're doing, and you kind of go through the list. She's like, here's some things I'm looking for, not explicitly stated, but something to the effect of, you know what you're doing, you work on a team, you this and that, and you kind of can work together, and to some sense you have an attention to detail. Like it's sort of it was implied, because here's the one thing at the very bottom of the note, and even at the top it said
implied.
It says, if you're interested, email me, Tim at Donley Time Foundation. Thank you very much, or hello at Donley, whatever it was, but basically email me at the Donley Time Foundation. Here's the email address. Thank you very much.
You have your own computer.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Email address. Yeah.
And sure enough, like a day later, I start getting a flood of private messages on the Yo-Yo forums. I start getting like people answering the post.
And this is you had already had Boss 101 the Flash game.
Yes, the Flash game was already done. The Boss 101, the Flash game's already done. So now I'm getting private messages, not emails, and then I'm getting replies to my post, also not emails. And people are like, hey, and this isn't how they were, sure. It was great that they were replying. So I don't want to make it seem like, like, how dare you're making fun of this. It's really more like, I clearly said, email me if you want this job, because I will check the emails quicker and I will get back to you quicker, because that's more, I'm not on the Yo-Yo forums. Yeah. And I kind of use that as sort of the first salmon ladder.
Test one.
Yeah, test one. Did you follow the general direction here? Not to say that I won't accept anybody for any other way, but that's just kind of a note, like, hey, you were asked to do it this way and you didn't. Now maybe somebody's like, I'm a wild gun, I do things my own way. Like I'm a renegade. Yeah, I'm a renegade. You gotta I'm code.
Look out.
I'm code solo. Like, I got the Millennium
My computer
code.
has flames on the side.
It's like, I've got the Game Maker Falcon. You can't tell me what to do.
No rules, baby.
You see what I can do. And so I thought, okay, well, I replied.
Because you never know.
You never know. And I replied to everybody. So there was anybody that either they did it in the forums, the PMs, and the email. I replied to all of them. Like I replied and I got back to them. I was like, all right, we'll just the first step. And Joshua was one of the people that emailed me, and then the next thing was
thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Like, that would have been a good start. Like, had he already been like, he's like, and I asked him later. I said, hey, I noticed you emailed me. He goes, because
Joshua's like a Game Maker genius.
Yes, he's been in Game Maker before we even did Boss 101. I want to say 12 years or more, I think. So it was a long time. Now, mind you, that was from when he was first starting at coding to now. So, but it was quite a long time, and he'd been coding all since. I think in Game Maker on Steam, he's got something like, I think, thousands of hours on the Steam version.
More than Skyrim.
Yeah, more than Skyrim. Quite a bit more. But yeah, so all these guys started emailing me, and this is just one of those classic things when you're looking for, and this just goes into team building and people, how do you get a group together that you want to work? How do you get your own Dirty Dozen together, kind of thing? Or how do you get your own? Yeah. How do you get your own ragtag
team?
Yeah. How do you get your A team together? How do you get this squad together that you can kind of believe in and trust? And that was, one of the things. Like, okay, we got first thing. Did you email? All right, fine. If you didn't, let's just keep going.
Yes.
And then, all right, everybody, just get in line. Get in line. Tallest to shortest, just get in line.
Stay where you are.
Just,
okay.
You guys just settle down for a second. The line. Yes, there. No questions.
Fine,
yet.
no lines. Just...
All right, Listen, can you hear me? Okay, who cares? It's just sandwiches are over there and drinks are over there.
I'll see you guys.
Thanks
later.
for coming. It's like so like the next thing was really just like, okay, let's just start with something simple. I said, I outlaid what we're doing. I said, it's obviously it's a project that may or may not have a Kickstarter. At that point, it was undecided. And I sort of outlined the plan and kind of where we were going. I said, what I'd like to do though is just start with not a programming test exactly, but just sort of see how you handle something potentially very simple, which is like, can we just do something to show how communication would work between us?
Yeah.
In other words, like partial programming test.
How bad is this game of telephone going to get?
Because it was a game of telephone. Everybody we were talking to, none of them were in Austin. None of them were going to be anything that was like, hey, it's going to be telephone. It's going to be like, I write a note down, hand it to the person, and then they interpret my note. And so I was like, we got to try at least this once. And it's, in a sense, it's more of a team test than it's even a programming test. So what I did is I said, let's just set up a situation where you can fire like I think it was a missile or something like that. You could fire a missile at a target or it was something that was pretty much just like particles in a targeting thing, and that was it.
It's a good Boss 101 test.
Yeah, exactly, because I felt like, well, this is a pretty basic thing here. And then right away, there were some people with questions or like, well, what kind of missile? Like, what kind of missile?
Yeah.
What kind of trail? Does it leave a contrail of steam or a dust, or what is it? Is it a flame?
How is it propelled?
Is it
magic?
jet fuel? Yeah. Is it a magical missile with a stream like in EVE Online or something? And you start getting, and those are all legitimate questions, but the main thing was, that was the point of the whole thing, is like, let's just see what get flushed out of the bushes with this. So let's just see what happened. Well, we sent it out, and like, at this point some people dropped off and some people haven't. And I think at that we'd gotten, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 people that had gotten whittled down just by the process.
Hangers on.
Yeah, and then so now of that people, maybe 10 did that. I don't know, maybe more, maybe less. And it was all varying degrees, but even those 10 some of them required quite a bit of back and forth, which again, it's fine. But it's just me kind of going, okay, what is this person going to need?
What's the chemistry like?
Exactly. That was the main thing, is like, what is the chemistry going to be with me and this person this entire time?
How well can we read each other's minds?
Yeah, and how well? Yeah, exactly. And when we can't, how well does that work? It's like, so
what happens?
Yeah, what
things
happens
go horribly wrong
when there's no reading? Well, Joshua was one of the only guys. He might have been the only guy that asked for. He got his basic outline, and he just turned in a little code sample, a little executable, and it was just like, you could fire guided missiles at this target that he had moving. So it was like he created a moving target, so you could fire it and they'd track and they'd hit. And I think it was some definite. It was by far the most elegant and the most elaborate of all the solutions.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him, going, well, what made you do all that? He goes like, well, I thought I'd make it a little fun to like, fire some missiles and it'd look cool. And he goes, I figured, and I said, well, you didn't ask about the missiles. He's like, well, you didn't give any guidelines, so I figured you just wanted me to make whatever I thought was
a missile.
Yeah, a missile, just whatever worked. And he did. He just made it work, and it was. And then he and I spoke a few times, and there were a few other people that I was speaking with that had gotten that far, that had kind of jumped a hurdle, and it really was coming down to just a personality test at that point, like how easy is it going to be to work with this person. And Joshua was the person that I felt in the long run was going to be the best fit for Boss 101.
That's completely reasonable, because this person you will spend 3.5 years with.
A lot of time. And now
who's counting?
Yeah, exactly. And then, but you start to realize, like, it sounds funny because a lot of people might pick what they argue would be like, I'd rather work with for lack of a better word, an asshole superstar than work with a long-term solid person. In solid, Joshua, I would still debate he is a superstar. He is very, very good at coding. But I think the main reason that he and I, and then Manon also, is just I felt there was a team chemistry there that worked for us. Like, we were all kind of on the same page. And
you'll get more out of that than.
Oh yeah, we would have never made it 3.5 years had it not had that. Like, I don't think we would have made it a year, because the original specs for the game were, I think, a little over a year and a half. Like, I think we had hoped to have it certainly done by 2015 Christmas, and I think we started in the mid 2014. And
I had hoped to have Savage done quite a long time ago too.
But you work on it, and and you suddenly realize, like, the game isn't
This is going to take some more. Yeah.
It's just not done, and you look at it through the eyes of the consumer, right? You say, this game isn't done. Like,
yeah, how pissed would I be?
Yes.
To play this right now.
Yeah, given the promises made, or given just the fact I'm going to buy it outright, what would I think?
Yeah, or the
game?
perceived, what you think you're going to get based on just looking at the thing. Like, if that's not in there,
yes,
or if it's in there and it sucks,
yes, I'm
going to be sad.
Yeah, and
I don't want to make anybody sad. That's the opposite.
Yeah, I don't want to make anybody sad. And I don't want to have a sense of just I don't want these people to be. I know I just look at it through my own eyes, like you're saying. I look at it and think, if I bought it, what would I think? What would I think of this game? And
yeah, how excited or bummed would I be?
And I'm glad that we're doing this. We did our games ourselves, because we were able to hold back a little bit and hold the game a little longer. I think Boston 1 benefited from. I thought we were going to be done again at the beginning of 2017. That we originally had a trailer in December 2016 that said, coming early 2017, everybody, and everybody's like, yay! All 27 people are like, yay! Some flags wave.
Right.
And we're like, okay, cool. This is going to be amazing. So, and I thought, oh man, we're going to hit this. We're going to come out of the gate strong. It's going to be crazy. And I think we got to the point where what we thought was wrapping things up, and there was just this wealth of stuff that. It was like the last things, and we're just like, these last things are a lot. There's sort of a. Yeah. Well, we played the game so now we're playing the game like the consumer, and one of the things was the store. We have a hat store with almost 300 hats in it, and it wasn't easy to sort through all that. It was pretty complicated.
No, yeah.
And we had to create a whole. It took us about a month, a little over a month, maybe a little less, but of UI work and stuff back, and that was all just because. Well, we can't just throw this thing out in the market like this with 300 hats. So, the first thing is somebody's going to get, you going to scroll through 300 hats? It's going to be, because I would do that. Be like, why do they want me to 300 hats?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. You've been going through one at a time, like clink, 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 clink.
Yeah.
We had to make fast move and sorting options, like pricing options. It was just.
Yeah, you got to kind of build stuff like that the way somebody would look at it. Like a store online or something. It's like, how easy is it to find something?
Yeah, how easy is it to find something? I mean, we talked about having. Oh God! I mean, had things gone a little different, or we had originally theoretically wanted to put in something to let the game find the best hat for you, or sort similar hat. In other words, I need a fire resistant hat.
Like an optimum button.
Yeah, give me an optimum button, or give me the best hat I got in my collection, or give me an optimum button. And then there was
I'm fighting a guy that has poison.
Show me the
automatically
poison
equip
hats.
the highest poison.
Yes.
Hat or something. Yeah.
Find that, and it was just like. Oh my God! It just seems so obvious. Like, a lot of that stuff seems so obvious now. Like
later, yeah.
Yeah, as soon as the game ships, you become the captain of obvious. You're like, oh, all these things should have been in, and of course, because exactly all the reviews in Steam are the same. All these things should have been in. What were you thinking? It's like, how could you be so lazy? You're just like, it's like,
meanwhile, you're missing skin on your fingers.
You're just like sweating. Oh God, look at the Steam numbers.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're just like trying. And then you
eating your crackers, or
yeah, you got some dried ramen and you're boiling it in your toilet. You're just like trying to go.
This rack sure is tasty.
Warm up the toilet.
Can I have another
bowl.
one?
Yeah, it's like warm up the toilet bowl, disinfect the water
if we can.
Yeah, if it's possible, or get a dysentery shot. But that's what it was. It was just like so much stuff was like that. So much stuff at the end was just like us trying to make it playable for us as a consumer, and other people as consumers too. And it was a mad scramble. It's a crazy time. It was so crazy. I mean, you got the same thing. You've shown your game on you've had it up on Steam for a while now, haven't you? Like, people, I mean, I know I could.
Yeah, the store page was, I put it up late 2015.
And now that's
October 2015. I can't remember now. It's been up for at least 2 years, I think.
Yeah, we talked about that.
2016 maybe, I can't remember.
Yeah, because I remember we talked at the end of when Greenlight, before it ever was ending, I had gotten our Steam page set up.
Oh yeah, I had done the whole green light thing too.
Yeah, and
you, so did you.
I did. Well, that's how Boss 101 got on Steam. Is it went through
Yeah.
Greenlight, and it. I think that I had gotten wind back then that Greenlight was, this was 2 years ago. I mean, now it's off, but that they were going to do something to change it, and
Yeah, they had that big announcement during the Steam Dev Days or whatever, where they're like, we're gonna get rid of Greenlight, everybody.
Yeah, and they're just like, we got to get rid of all this, crazy games flooding the Steam marketplace. And then what was the result from last week was like, this year, Steam as of today, as of the date last week, has released 6,000 games this year to date. And last year, the entirety of Steam released 4,000 games. And then the year before that was like 2,000. Yeah. And then I guess in the 10 years or so before that,
they're multiplying.
yeah, there has been more games released this year, I believe, than if you go back a couple years and then just all the way to the beginning. I think that entire time, like it's I don't know if you count last year and the year before, but I think if you count up the earlier years than that, I believe this year there's the most, by far the most, and it's ridiculous. So it's, I mean, I don't, again, for any devs that listen to this, I would say, we were told we were going to be on the Steam front page for about, there was hints,
which
Steam,
is the featured
Steam
section.
features. So what happens when you release the game? You go, arguably you go to the Steam front page, new releases or trending or whatever, and depending on the click-throughs from the front page, depending on a few things, you will stay on the front page more or less if people click through and buy the game. There's all these weird algorithms, but they mostly come down to, if people are interested in your game based off the front page and they buy it, then Steam says, okay, this game's selling, so let's leave it here. I think we were there less than a day, and I think that's because the calculations right now that I understand are about 16 or 17 games are released a day on Steam.
Oh my God.
But roughly, if you think it's 6,000 divided into 365, and now there's more, but mind you, we're in November, and there's still another month of incredible sales and games coming out. So I would say it's probably, let's just for argument's sake, let's say it's 16 games a day. So you can imagine those 16 games are taking up some space on that front page to some extent. So you're probably lucky to get, some people get a lot, some people, you may get a new game that's a really, really popular, people are looking forward to it, and it'll stay up there for a week or two. I don't know. I mean, then there's other games like that, maybe just a kind of a new small indie game that comes out and it blips like.
I remember it used to be weird seeing a game that you'd never heard of on Steam.
Yes.
Now it's like you run into that like almost every day. It's like, I've never heard of this thing before. When it turns out it's been out for like a year or something.
Oh yeah. I remember when Steam I don't know if they ever manually curated it, which I'd be curious if they did at some point. I think that it's been automated for quite a while now. I don't think that they have any agency, human agency involved, at least directly in front page stuff. I think that's all completely calculated, but I could be wrong. I mean, maybe they have something there where somebody can flag it, maybe if you
internally.
I'm sure, if they released Half-Life 3, I wouldn't be surprised if that sat on the front page for quite a long time, for a lot of reasons, not just for the fact that Valve owns Steam, but it's like, I wouldn't be surprised that Valve can kind of tweak that a little if they wanted to make a game shine. I mean, there's I'm sure there's some dude sitting in the back there.
Yeah, it would be weird if they didn't have some kind of.
I think everything's on automatic now, but I think those controls all have manual overrides. Like I'd almost bet everything.
If they're curious, if the guys over there at the control panel are curious, they
if somebody came in to
take a peek, and if anything strikes their fancy, they can be like, hey, hold on.
If somebody came into Valve to do like an interview and said, hey, how do you guys do this? I'm sure they could produce a facility that looks like a NASA control room where these people are like, yeah, we're working. Like, just like they've got headphones on and they're just like, hold on, game's trending, everybody. And the sliders move and they're just like pulling levers and like steam's coming out of things. And they're like, and like six people have to like, on 3 turns, and then like it trends up a little more.
Yeah,
I'm sure they could produce like an entire room of really hardworking, trend monitor people. But the reality is, it's probably that room is mostly just empty and the lights are off and there's an old Christmas tree in it or something like that.
Yeah, everybody walks by occasionally or some guy walks by occasionally to see that the light's blinking. Okay.
Yeah, he's like, all right, good. He's like, oh, hey, are we gonna clean out the Doritos bin back there? Like, there's just like a mess.
Yeah,
like,
get a broom back there.
Yes. So that's my suspicion. Like I said, Boss 101 was not, and that's that speaks a lot to either to many things. It isn't necessarily has valves, hand all over everything. I think
No.
we didn't light up the Steam sales boards at the time. We didn't. We knew it was going to be a long haul when we got in. We knew that this could happen. In other words, we knew if we didn't go crazy on the front page, it might be a while before Boss 101 it trends well on Steam or starts seeing significant sales boost.
You got to fight on your hands.
You got to fight on your hands, and you know it too. You have to have a little bit of an endurance in you to. It's going to take time to get. Really what you're looking for is not necessarily a reviewer. I wouldn't want to put that on game reviewers, but you need something or someone potentially to pay some attention to your game and notice it. Because if nobody notices it, clearly it's not going to do very well.
And that's the thing I feel like with Boss 101 right now is it's just not enough people have seen the thing.
Yes, that's the.
It doesn't have enough eyeballs.
Yes, that is the hope we have too, and that's the feeling. I believe it too, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to say, well, it's the journalism's fault or it's Steam's fault. It's not really. I mean, it's just a situation.
However, it doesn't help when
it does not help
when a reviewer only spends an hour on it.
Yes, yeah. If we've had a few,
rates it a 4 out of 10.
Yes, we've had a few situations. For example, we've had a few situations where people play the game quite a short amount of time, and I mean, I'll just go over some of the without getting into drilling into too specifics and getting too salty. I'll say,
well, if anybody follows me on Twitter,
they know,
and or follows you on Twitter, they know exactly what we're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, and but we've been beyond that though. There's been even beyond that, which is funny. There's been people where, but you can tell it's like anything else. If you send somebody that wants to see a horror movie into a comedy movie, they're gonna be upset. They may walk out. Boss 101 is a specific type of game. We made it. It's trite to say, well, we made something different, but it is a little different than just an average, bullet hell.
It's
shooter.
pretty weird.
It's a weird game, and it's
unusual.
It's unusual, but we made it as high quality. I mean, we poured everything into it. We said, man, we're gonna make this so good that Nintendo is gonna, notice it. We're gonna make it the highest quality game. Everything is polished as much as we could, and so what happens is people were like, some people look at it, and you look at it on the surface, and it's like, well, it kind of looks like a bullet hell game. So
you immediately think shooter.
Yes, and then
like Ikaruga or something, and it's like, why isn't it like Ikaruga?
Yeah, why isn't it like?
Oh, I hate this.
Oh God, this is a health bar. Oh God, these guys, and it's like, and they just kind of play it, and they just go to give up. And people that play it, and they're saying things like, reviewer or whatever, is like, I got Boss 101 and I had to, oh God, there's the tutorials just trying to explain everything. Why are these tutorials explaining everything? And then they're like, oh, why is there so much? I had to skip all the cinemas and I had to skip everything. I skipped everything and I was just playing the shooty part and I just didn't really like that much. And I'm like, you're kind of skipping the whole game at that point. That's like,
it's like eating the crust of the pizza.
Yeah, we talked about before. It's like
then being pissed off that there wasn't enough pizza.
There wasn't enough pizza, or we talk about the movie thing where it's like going to the Quentin Tarantino movie and skipping all the dialogue parts, and you're just like, I just want to see the action, and you're like, maybe you want to watch a little bit more. I mean, we put all that stuff in for a reason, and hey, here's the deal: if you buy the game, you're entitled to play it as you like. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I think the ones that sting.
It's just interesting to see.
It is interesting
what people complain about and what they did or didn't do, and how those line up.
It's interesting because what is crazy is that you get this sense these. It's when people are saying things like, kind of categorically stating as if they've been following the game for years and saying things like, I've been following this game and I'm really don't understand how it turned into this.
Which you have a built-in defense for, by the way, because you've been doing a really strict development blog.
Yes. Every week
for 3.5 years.
Yes. Every week, 3.5 years, I write
outlining exactly what it is and what it isn't.
That we did that week and what we plan to do and where things are going.
Yeah. What the game is and what it isn't. And
yes, very clearly. In fact,
so it's funny to see some of these
comments.
Sort of like these Steam reviews are like, I've been
following the game for years,
and it's nowhere near what I had.
Yeah, this doesn't seem to match up with my expectations, and I'm like, well, what were your expectations? Because here's a blog that shows that this is exactly the game that we promised. This is the game we delivered, and where do you see the discrepancy? Please educate me, because I'd like to know.
And I get it. It's unrealistic to have somebody have kept tabs on it every week for. But the general
gist was always there. Yeah. We specifically, I remember for 1 to almost 2.5 years, I told Minone and Joshua, I said, we will not focus in any update specifically, and doesn't mean we won't show it, but we won't focus on combat. In other words, we never had one update that focused on bullet hell combat, because I felt that if we went in that direction, we would be labeled as a bullet hell shooter, and that's a
you guys always kind of did a hard flank toward the story.
Yes, we always were focused on the story and the world, and we showed bits of the gameplay and said this is the mechanics that allow you to explore the world, and there is a shooter in there, and there is elements of a shooter.
Yeah, well, it's part of the action adventure.
Yes,
that's Boss 101 to me is way more action adventure than
that's
shooter. Like it feels like if you like crammed Earthbound or something into it, or mutated Earthbound into a
it's
like a shooter
example.
thing instead of having like turn-based battles. It's like, oh, there's shooter parts.
Yes, that's what we feel like we were doing, is that we really concentrated on making the world and the story, and things like you noticed, like we added in.
Yeah, it's a comedy. It's an action.
Yeah,
adventure,
we added,
and then it's a shooter.
Then it's a shooter. Well, the shooter is an aspect of it. Like it's right. It's just got bits of it. It's just, you watch a movie maybe like, even like Ant-Man or the Marvel movies like Thor. Like they got a lot of comedy in them. They got great action too, but they're almost arguably they start to borderline on being a superhero comedy, because they're kind of wacky. And that doesn't mean that they don't have good action. It doesn't mean they don't have a lot of that. And it doesn't mean you couldn't say Thor or Spider-Man's probably even a better
Ant-Man's
example.
almost... I was going to say Ant-Man's a pretty good one, because it's like going into Ant-Man and only wanting to watch the action parts of Ant-Man.
Yeah, you're kind of... Ant-Man is almost a caper movie. Like the music is really like 70s.
But you expect like a superhero martial arts...
Yes.
Like Daredevil or something.
No, and he's just cracking jokes the whole time, and he's like flipping around and doing, he's riding on choo-choo trains.
Occasionally throws a punch.
Yes.
And then it's a weird one. And
he's riding like kids' trains at some point, and you're like, okay, what is this? Like, it's funny. It's a great...
Falling down a bathtub. Like.
Yeah, he's, it was a giant, it was an orange peel. It's like, oh God, what's up? Right an ant. And it's awesome. I mean, I love that movie a lot. Let's be clear. Like, I really, really love that movie. The movie was so super funny. And
yeah, but it's an expectation thing. Like,
Yeah, I think that they diffused quite a bit of that. Marvel, I should say.
Going into it.
Well, Paul Rudd, as soon as you put him in anything. It's like, as soon as you put like wacky
okay,
Paul
this
Rudd.
is not a serious thing, is it?
Yeah, it's like you're like, okay, if they cast anybody else, you might have been questioning it. But
on the fence.
Yeah, Paul Rudd, like when he shows up in anything, you can already tell it's going to be a kind of a fun thing, because he's kind of...
Yeah, you immediately understand the tone.
Yes. The tone is clear. He's in wacky mode. And that's what we did. We focused a lot. In fact, all the updates, even today, we just put up that new trailer, and we basically said... I was talking to Joshua last night, and I was like, man, I'm going to put a new trailer up about Boss 101. And it's funny because it just shows like, you can almost play the music like doop-a-doop-a-doo. Boss 101 is like having this day where it's like, says like, it's like says something like, he's got like difficult bosses, he's got a bunch of rivals, he has a tough day, nobody wants to help him, and it just keeps showing like Boss 101 getting yelled at the whole time. And it's like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, but it's funny because Boss 101, you can see him like making phone calls.
How is this a shooter?
Yeah, like he's making phone calls to his bosses, and he's like, hey, I need some help, and they're like, you're not getting any. And he's like, hey, yeah, and he's like, okay, and then he talks. Then he's trying to talk. It's going to different cutscenes, but it has one of the cutscenes where he's trying to talk to Stephen Max about like quitting attacking him. He's like, hey, you guys may want to slow your roll because you're bad for business. And like, why would we do that? And he goes, well, you're making me look bad. It's like, and he's just, but it's all stupid, so it's like wacky, and then it just says like what is this? Like it's so bizarre, but it's showing you like that's more the spirit of the game is just like, it's not just your story of the main characters, but it's also Boss 101, and like what is he going through, and like what is he doing, and he has, kind of his story wraps up in a fun way. Like I like to think that, you and I have talked about the Boss 102 continuation that we want to do, but we want you to feel like this is a dude. This isn't just some like anonymous like villain trying to kill your family or something. It's like, or he's just some like robotic sentience that you don't even care about. Like he's
got some goofy depth to him.
Yeah, he does. He's
there
playing.
Are things happening around him.
There are things happening around. Like he's, and you get the sense too that, which I always feel like was a neat thing, maybe in the very first Star Wars and in some of the science fiction movies or anything, where you get a sense that there's a world, but the way you get the sense there's a world is that they show you little snippets that make you feel there's a much bigger empire going on outside of this particular story. Like things didn't get here just because of everybody in the story. There's like, and when I talk back to the first Star Wars, I'm talking about the 77 one, where you first see the, you get the feeling at that time, maybe the Death Star was the premier ship of the time.
Yeah.
But you kind of felt like they were rolling around with those little wedgie Star Destroyers all over the place. Like, you had the feeling like they were just sort of like, whatever, man. Anytime somebody steps up, we're just going to crush them with these things. Like, the Death Star was just, we have so much money that we're just going to throw
Let's
it
see what we
around.
can really do.
Yeah, like, what can we really do if we put a bunch of money into something? And I felt like, when I first saw some super ancient, but when I first saw Star Wars, the original one in the theater, I just remember thinking, like, Darth Vader, there's probably like 100 Darth Vaders running around somewhere in the Empire.
Yeah, he's just one.
He's just one. He's one flunky amongst like thousands of super powerful
chasing down this piddly little ship.
Yeah, like, you never got the feeling, that was never presented, if you go back and watch the first one, especially New Hope, there isn't necessarily the sense that he's the only one of that level.
Well, and he's even like taking orders from people.
He's taking orders from
he
Grand
jumps
Moff
into a
Tarkin.
little crappy spaceship.
Like, what's he doing? Like,
shoot the other little.
Why would Vader
spaceships.
do that? Like, that's just insane. Like, if you think he's
like just a stronger stormtrooper.
Yeah, you wouldn't send MacArthur or Rommel or some of these like famous generals of the past out in a little TIE fighter. Like, there's no reason to. Like, he's too important.
Not on the front.
Yeah, Napoleon isn't going to jump in a TIE fighter and do it.
No.
I mean, he may want to, but he's not going to. You wouldn't. You aren't gonna send those guys
I want
out.
Napoleon to jump into a
That
TIE
would
fighter
be
now.
that's a good game right there. It's
a good game.
Napoleon versus Patton, like in TIE fighter battles.
Yeah.
Like, just have their like flags on the side, and they got banners and things they're dragging around. It would be a good game.
The French flag on the panels on the side.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, but that's the kind of thing. Like, you don't really get a sense. Like, and even we talk about this too with like Star Trek, the original series, and when you watch Star Trek, the original series with Kirk, you get the feeling that Kirk is just one of many badass captains, because you meet a few other ones like Deckard I think his name is, and a few others where you go, these guys are just like Kirk, except they're their own version. They're like their own Wild West gunmen. And you don't get the sense that Kirk is the only legendary captain. You get the feeling like he's kind of probably a pretty...
Yeah, there are other Kirks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are definitely other
around
Kirks.
the galaxy.
Yeah, and they've all got like awesome battleships they're flying around in. They're not like... And they're by no means pushovers. And
picking up alien babes.
Yeah.
And other...
Yeah, and they're all doing crazy things.
Unexplored galaxy. Yeah.
They're digging around with lava creatures and stuff like that. And they're meeting Tholians in their own way. And I feel like that's the thing that was cool about, like, when you see, Han Solo or something, those first ones, or you don't get the sense that they're the only ones like that. Now when you watch movies, the sense is the Skywalkers and everything in terms of Star Wars.
Everybody was taught by this person.
Everybody was taught by
related
the same
to this
people.
person.
Everybody knows C-3PO. Everybody was taught the same.
Everybody used the same lightsaber. And,
yes, this is a lightsaber that's generational.
They all dress this way too. And
why did what was it? The Jedis, they all dress like sand people. Like, all the Jedis have sand robes on, not because they live in a desert, but because that's just the way they are. Like,
nope, now that's their uniform.
Yeah, it's their uniform. They do. I think you described it with the Han Solo movie.
Oh God.
Where in the Han Solo movie that's coming out, they Red Letter Media.
Is that this year?
2018.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I believe 2018. And
we gotta wait a little longer.
A little bit longer. It's coming out though.
Yeah, to consume this gem of a
this masterpiece. But one of the things that you pointed out in Red Letter Media did their kind of spoof of they predicted what would be in the Han Solo movie.
Yes.
And they basically came up with the most absurd list of things, like, of course somebody's going to say, I love you, I know, to Han Solo.
Right, yeah.
Of course somebody, probably Han Solo, is going to look at the Millennium Falcon the first time and say...
all his stuff has to be like pre-coined.
Yes. Yeah, you basically said it best. You go, they're going to change Han Solo from a character that is famous for just riffing and coming up with these funny things online to everything he does is habit. Like, it's all ingrained habit in him.
It started somewhere, and it
doesn't,
and
like,
he liked it so much he kept doing it.
Yeah, like, he's been saying the same jokes over and over for 10 or 20 years, and you're like, that makes Han Solo so much less cool.
Or everything is like insanely significant.
Yes,
like
his vest, his Greedo's vest,
the stripes on his space pants.
Yes, like, we're gonna find out
mark of a bounty hunter or something.
Oh yeah, or we're gonna find out, like, the Millennium Falcon is like this rare princess ship that was a royal freighter of some sort.
Yeah,
there's just gonna be. It's like, what was cool about Han Solo when he first, swaggered onto the scene is that you just felt he was what he was. Like, he's just some ruthless clown that's
like he accidentally got involved with all this wacky shit. And
he's got a junk ass ship. At the time, it looked cool, but he even said it looks kind of crappy, but it can fly like a mother. And so that's what's awesome about it. And I feel like that's what made him so cool. But now they're gonna just
he could take this assembly line thing and make it his own, and he knew
He's
how
a
to
hot
work
rod.
it well. And
he just made it amazing, and that's not. I'd never with the New Hope, and I want to put Boss 101 on that same equal footing. It's not.
It's okay, you can.
Yeah, it's like
That's
why
pretty
not? Pretty good company. So no, but the idea was to definitely go for that vibe at least to say there's a world. There's way more than these guys, but these guys could be significant. They're in their own way. They're doing something significant to them, but they're also
in their
like
own sphere.
in their own little sphere, and they say it like it's explained in the game quite a few times, and through all the media in the game, you can figure it out. But you figure out like, hey, these guys are potentially part of something very big, but at the same time, they aren't like the chosen ones exactly. They could be at some point. They might turn into that group, but we don't know right now. And if they do, it's going to have to be a journey. It's not going to be.
And they you get the feeling they kind of made themselves the chosen ones. Like they decided to do it themselves.
Yes.
So
they should be. It's like
here's how it shook out. Like
and you kind of things to them kind of went the way they thought they would, but then there's some twists in there where you wonder
for this tiny specific problem.
Yes,
like
for
scale wise.
Yeah, and they explained too that like in the game, it was important to set it as a again you're talking about a pretty straightforward game, but at some point we kind of created this universe to live it in because it made it easier to make the game. Actually, just having that universe made the game so much easier to make because we could apply the thinking of the universe to everything. Where if you're going to have maybe a new UI element or a new level. All we had to do is think, well, what are we missing from this universe? Like, oh, we've got these guys are in the universe. Why don't we make a planet with them in it? Or we need a UI element, and we need to have like, for instance, we got a wiki.
Yeah.
And
the wiki is a thing of beauty.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm pretty jealous of the wiki. I'm like, I don't know.
I love the wiki. The wiki was something that we thought, well, the race in the game right now that's the information gatherers is the professor and the gophers. Like, they're basically this little group of people that collect all the data, and they're like scientists. So I was like, well, the professor would have the wiki then. He'd run it, and it would be in his style. In other words, the graphics and everything in it reflects his aesthetic. And it's shit like, stuff like that where you go, that's why you create a world, is it makes those decisions so much easier to do, as opposed to just generically saying, well, it's going to look like some space thing. It's going to have like some space. It's going to look like space future or something. It's going to look like a Star Trek thing. But even in Star Trek, the reason things look like they do is because they arguably try and make it look like a human made it, or arguably made it a Klingon made it.
Yeah, there were iterations before this, and some failed and some.
Yeah,
whatever.
this is what you're seeing arguably in any show or TV or even in a game, is that you're seeing the result of maybe a generation or two of development, and obviously it's difficult to pull that off and make it look convincing and not like you just put big heads in everything. Call back to big head talk. But you know what I'm saying? It's really easy to just sort of say, oh, we're just gonna panel's a panel or a thing's a thing, and to us it was like, no, we're gonna try and
how did it get this way?
And why is it this way? And why would this guy even be here? And one of the things was that we made it very clear that like Earth in its section of the galaxy in the Boss 101 universe is just nothing. It's like it's the Boondocks. It's like way far out. I mean, it would be like somebody on Earth, our Earth now, talking about maybe people living on Pluto or farther out, maybe even right outside the solar system on an asteroid outside the solar system. They'd be so far out and so remote that you just kind of go, oh, I heard they're rebelling, and you're like, oh, cool, good luck.
Doesn't change my day to day.
Yeah, there's nothing they could do, and anything they could do would take so long to affect me that I don't even care. Like, it just doesn't even matter.
It'll be dealt with.
Yeah, I'll be long dead before any ramifications of that ever happen, and that's kind of
that's how I used to feel about Star Wars.
Yes, that's exactly how you should have always feel. Like, you want to feel like, oh my God, the Skywalkers are so far out. The Death Star just
Greedo knew Darth Vader.
Yes. Yeah, like what? Why would that be the case? Like, why would Greedo, or why would
he was there for Darth Vader's first pod race? Like,
it just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would it? Why did Darth Vader make C-3PO?
Yeah, every stupid little thing in there has to have been handled by someone of significance.
Yes.
And they're the only things that matter, and they're the things that make the entire universe run.
Well, the thing, and what's funny is it's hard, and it's a really difficult thing to do. All media again has struggled with this. Storytelling has struggled with it. Obviously Tolkien with Lord of the Rings, storytelling inside Marvel Comics, DC Comics, books. Anyway, you want to be able to introduce new characters later, and have them mean something and be significant without trying to lean too much on your old people, like, and make
I
bring
think
them
I think the
back.
best way to combat it is just never ever ever do any prequel content.
Oh God, yeah. If you can avoid that, please. Like,
Yeah, like
It's tough.
I get it. Like I remember thinking how cool it would be to you know, I was super excited when I was a kid. I was super excited. I subscribed to the Star Wars Insider, which was the quarterly magazine for all things
Sure.
Lucasfilm. And I remember when they announced the prequel stuff, I was like, oh, not only are we gonna get new Star Wars movies, but we're gonna get to see Vader like wreck shop, like you know, like back in the day and everything.
Everybody
And
thought that.
I feel like anytime anybody ever does a prequel thing, they
the temptation is,
accidentally fuck everything up.
well, because the temptation is to try and explain everything.
Yes.
and they don't want to, like.
And I get it, because as a kid, I thought it was a really good idea.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
and even on to, you know, there are always, every once in a while, I'm like, I wish I knew a little bit more about this. And but then wikis.
Yes.
If you want to go back and just wikis.
Go back and do wikis.
Like,
One thing that did it, I wouldn't say they did it great.
it's always
but
a good idea to just keep building outward and forward.
you know what's interesting is they did in
And I'm sure there are exceptions.
yeah, and remember Raiders of the Lost Ark, the next one, Temple of Doom, which was technically set 10 years before Raiders. It was a prequel. I mean, it wasn't a prequel in the sense it gave an origin, but I think it was set 10 years before. Yeah, it was basically before, and he was saying
Wait, Temple of Doom
is earlier than
is a
Raiders.
prequel
I'm
to
almost certain
Raiders of the
that it's
okay.
set. I'm almost certain. I don't. Again, maybe
Well, I mean, and
he's supposed to be
the Indiana Jones stuff is so pulpy that
Yes.
it doesn't matter.
But you know what I
Like,
mean? They didn't. They were just like, let's just tell another wacky story, even though it's a little bit earlier.
Doesn't matter when.
Doesn't matter when.
It's
And-
like Tarzan or
Yeah, you don't care. Bond is another character that they kind of can do.
They bounce around with Conan too. It's
Yes.
the same thing. It's like it does like those stories were constantly bouncing. Like I think one of the very first Conan stories was he's an old man.
Oh yeah, old man Conan.
He's an old king,
Crom.
and like there's guys that are like assassinating him because they don't want him to be king anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the first Conan story, and then all the ones you get after that are like him running around like in the
Yeah, he's
desert
just-
somewhere as like a young
That's awesome.
barbarian crazy man.
But see how those don't even care. They just say
No.
They're
they're not tied. There's
No, they just say in the beginning they'll be like Conan is 45, and the next one Conan is 23. And you're just like, all right, like whatever. That's
What's
fine.
he doing? Yeah.
What happened before? Who cares? Like
yeah.
that isn't important. In
He's
here.
just killing guys.
He's just gonna be smashing heads.
Cool.
So good. Go.
Yeah.
All right. Good. I mean, they could have done that with Star Wars. Although I think that, you know, when it came out, what you said was what was happening, which is most people were hoping and or internally saying, I want a
bigger
full
universe.
I want a bigger universe, but I
Yeah.
want some explanations of how these guys got this way. And it was tough because obviously they went full bore into the explanation thing and
They got
almost
real specific.
and almost none into anything. Oh my god! I remember when the credits started for the episode 1,
Yeah.
and they showed Jake Lloyd, and I'm like, is by the time episode 3 happens, are they going to be like effectively a minute before they go capture Princess Leia? In other words, is it going to be, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, is this going to be the end of, is it going to end where Rogue One effectively ended?
Yeah.
Like I honestly thought it was going to end like there, where they're just going to see the blockade runner take off, and I was like, oh my god, this is so good. He's already like a kid, like he's not even. I thought it was going to be hundreds of years before him, even maybe, or there was going to be this lead up of like, you know, Ben Kenobi's dad or some crazy stuff. I mean, you didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
But then they had some posters, and I was like,
or I thought we were gonna get to
what's
get to
going
see
on
really
here?
early Republic,
yes,
Galactic Republic stuff.
yes,
Like kind of like the games.
yeah,
The-
the Knights of the Old Republic.
yes.
Yeah, no, they didn't have any of that stuff, and it was just like, okay, cool, this is okay, I guess. And you're right though, prequel stuff is just, it's a dangerous. Well, anytime you try to retcon stuff, very very few writers. I mean, it's a challenge. Like, do you read?
You were already dealing with a big, complicated plate of spaghetti.
Yes.
Like, just how does one end of the noodle get to
Yes.
what's already been, you know, and how do I not mess with
Yes. How do you do
things
it
I've already
without-
set up that wouldn't work?
Yeah, it's so difficult, and it's just, you know, it is a skill
Such a
thing,
huge. You're just creating these huge problems
and only really there are
for
talented,
yourself. You're creating huge problems.
Yeah, it's a storytelling issue, and it's like only not highly talented, only highly talented, but generally speaking, only really talented writers, creators can pull off what would seem to be a seamless and easy told story. Like, that's the whole trick, right? You make it so perfectly seamless that in the end you go, wow, it seems so obvious, like, how did they, of course it's that way. That makes so much sense. Like, I can remember, I don't know if you follow comics, Alan Moore, he's done many retcon type situations. Some not necessarily greatly with Marvel, but he's gone back and sort of retold stories and said, well, this is how it happened. And you're just like, it's Superman version, he's done variations of Superman, Fantastic Four and all that stuff. And he sort of tries to explain how it got there.
Yeah,
and
thanks for removing any mystery and
sometimes it works. Sometimes he pulls it off, but a lot of times he's probably got a better track record than some. But you're right.
What I really wanted was a Joker origin story.
Yeah, like, this is how this guy got. Yeah, Killing Joke is a very famous one that he did, where he basically said, this is how the Joker became the Joker, and this is how Barbara Gordon.
And it kind of makes him lamer.
Yeah, it's tough because when you go back and humanize anything that's basically a supernatural thing, you sort of go, or potentially a supernatural creature. Like the Joker was just this mysterious like
he's kind of scarier and more effective when you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where
he's coming from.
Yeah, but then when you see he's just a person, like a regular
he's just a guy down on his luck.
Somebody put a red thing on his head.
He got confused.
He got confused and fell down.
He got lost. Had an accident.
And he's laughing his head off.
Now he's so mad.
He's so mad he's been saying. Like, it's just tough. It's like, it is really, really crazy. But, again, with the game stuff, it's like you try to look ahead a little bit. When you establish the world, you say, well, okay, this is, the more that you establish the world, the easier it is to make new things for it. The easier it is to sort of add stuff, because in our head there's we've got headcanon about why Boss 101 is doing what he's doing, headcanon about the Robotic Council, who's effectively his bosses, and why they're doing and what they're looking for and why they're looking for it. And it's all stuff we tell the player, again, through story elements. We don't tell them every little thing because we want to save a little for later, but you get a complete story in the end. But we know how it wraps up, and you effectively get a complete beginning to end story. And it's like we go, there's room for more. There's definitely room for more. But yeah, I can't imagine just let's go back and tell a prequel of how did these guys get around.
Yeah, and especially when you already have a somewhat complex lore and canon, and
exactly,
and then you start digging around in places you probably you think you have a better idea now than you did when you first came up with with the crap you did.
Yeah, you think you're so smart. Like, oh my God, how many times? Like, well, what about when you did Savage? What about that? What was the I obviously it's got a Conan, and then you look at the retro games too.
It's hugely derivative.
Yeah, but it's
like Conan the Barbarian.
It has a very Conan vibe to it, but it's great. I mean, it's
and Hero Quest. Like, there's the board game right there. Like, look, there's
a guy.
Essentially, there's Kel.
There's Kel swinging a sword right there on the thing.
Like, a lot of that was just mostly what looked cool in my head.
That's a good start.
Yeah, like freeze frame, moments, and it's like, okay, there's a cool guy with like a really rad looking helmet and some awesome looking armor, and like there's fire behind him, and then you start to kind of break it down. It's like, why is there fire?
Yes.
Why is he so cool?
Yes.
Why is he rad? Okay, kind of walk it back a little bit, and then
it's important.
Like, okay, maybe he's an emperor. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe he's like bad. Maybe he's got an army at his beck and call. Maybe they're an army of slavers. Maybe they're slavers because part of the world like collapsed, and they're trying to like rebuild their economy, and and you just kind of start doing stuff like that. That's essentially how I piece it together. And Savage was mostly like, what would be awesome. What would lead you up to those like cool looking like silhouettes, or
like here's where we want to be, and how can we work our way legitimately up to this spot?
Yeah, like even like the title screen of Savage is the same way. It's like you see the end right at the beginning. Like, you see the tower you're supposed to get to, like, and then like you see the goal.
Yeah, see that's
more or less.
I love that. Even there's something satisfying that even if the player doesn't maybe initially register that, there's that reward later where he kind of goes, oh hey, that's that thing I've been seeing this whole time. Like, that's this your title screen is this thing he's been.
Yeah, it's the title screen's on the box art. It's
yeah.
I didn't want to be shy about like.
You shouldn't. Like, the thing is, if your whole game relies on completely on twists and surprises.
Magic box.
Yeah. It's all magic box out.
A whole podcast could be done.
The big heads and magic box. Like that's a new podcast.
Oh, if you combine the two,
oh man, you got a magic system right there.
You got a big giant magic box.
You got Star Trek Into Darkness.
You got a Star Trek STD.
Magic. Oh, Star Trek Discovery. Yes, we could. That's a whole other podcast. Like, but that's a good example of like. I think what people appreciate is when they feel the storyteller genuinely knows the end to his story completely and won't change it based off of audience boos or hisses. Like he's
or whether or not they got sick of the idea or whatever, or think that they're more brilliant than when they initially thought they were really, really brilliant.
Well, you can only how many head fakes can you do in any given story before the audience gets tired of it? Like you can't constantly say.
Well, and how much of it comes off as like pure just masturbation? You know, it's like oh, I'm cool. Like I'm cooler now. I think I'm cooler now than when how cool I thought I was before.
Yes. Yeah, I thought I did this thing that I thought was pretty clever.
Mm-hmm. And you can tell I liked myself then.
Yes.
But now I like myself even more, and I'm going to show you why.
I'm going to force it down your throat, and I'm not going to give you enough information. Like, that's a big thing. Excuse me. I think of storytelling is a lot of times is that it's nice when the audience gets as much information in the sense that they figure it out early if they were paying attention, or could they at least get an idea of what's going on?
And of course it all depends on like the kind of story you're telling, and you know, like there's a thing to mystery, and you know, and for me, like Savage is very much a story of moments. It's like what happens to you leading up to the tower, or the Shard of Gosen, essentially. Like what are the cool things that are gonna happen to the player, and how are they, you know, the cool part comes in like how they decide to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's the shit. You give them the cool moments. You say, hey, you lead them into those moments, and they can sort of. I mean, ideally, you know, again, Boss One, I'm sure Savage is the same way. Is that we try to set up situations where the person's going to have a story to tell their friends. They're going to say. They're going to play a section of the game and go, oh, that was really fun. I can't wait to tell somebody about this. Or
I like that about Boss 101. That is the story, is to have a cool story.
Yes.
Like you're talking to your brother in the hospital.
Yes.
Not you.
The player
your
in the game.
Your brother's not in the hospital.
Yeah. No, my brother's not in the hospital.
Right.
I don't have a brother.
Boss 101 characters.
Yeah, he basically says, bring me a story.
Yeah.
You know, he effectively says, do something cool and bring me a story.
And the name of the game is the name of the last boss.
Yeah, it's funny because that wasn't originally the case, but yeah, he became...
Yeah.
The last boss was, well, there used to be 101 levels. That was the one other thing. But, so he was
there in the Flash game? Was there 100? Yeah,
101 levels, and it was.
I didn't make it all the way. I think I made
not
it to
many people
80
did
or so.
Yeah, it got to the point where it was just too much. Like we were gonna do a lot of levels for this one, but
that's a lot of levels.
It's a lot. 101 was.
Well, now you can have as many damn levels in Boss 101 as you want with the Endless Boss.
Endless Boss allows you, and it cuts out. There's no. It's just that one. Endless Boss mode in Boss 101 is just pure boss shoot. It's probably what some people might think. Well, this is the whole game. You can play it if you want. That is just. We cut out all the cutscenes. There's no intros. There's no dialogue. You just blam go through, and you have an arcade mode too. And when we added the difficulty, we really did just allow people to say, I can crank the difficulty up to 10 and just go crazy and just have this ridiculous challenge, you know. And just,
then you can actually play it like a shooter.
Yes. You could say, I'm playing a shooter. I'm going to do this crazy shooter game, and I could do arcade mode. I can do Endless Boss Iron Bot, which is you get to pick some weapon and a hat. But yeah, it's nuts. I mean, all that stuff is in there. It's amazing. Like sometimes I think about all the stuff we've done. I think I told you we just updated the game. It's like I had to go back and look at old art assets from almost 4 years ago, and I was just like, holy crap, man, there's a lot of work in here.
Yeah, I want to throw up every time I look at old Savage stuff. God,
there's a lot of old
stuff. What was I thinking?
We got rid of a lot of that. Most of that stuff we got rid of only just through sheer, like, we worked on it so long, we're like, okay, let's fix that. But yeah, there are some old crusty things in there. Holy moly. Make a Boss itself is 3.5 years old, so it's the art in there is 3.5 years old. I just updated it like this weekend. I was like, oh my god, this hasn't been changed in 3.5.
That's kind of as I'm learning. That's just kind of how it goes, though.
Yeah.
Like you can't go back and do everything over and over and over again. Otherwise, you're going to be working on it forever. And
ever. You choose your battles. You say like, will I go back and will I redo everything?
Yeah. How much mileage will I personally get out of like redoing this one thing, or
Oh, yeah.
if something really really needs it, then it needs it. But
Yeah, we call it moving the needle. We say, is this going to move the ratings needle or the satisfaction needle of the game much? And if it isn't, then there's got to be a compelling reason for it. Because if there are other things, if you wanted to raise your average and you had like 10 scores, maybe if it's a D&D game, right, and you want to raise the average of a character, overall average. Mm-hmm. Well, the easiest way to raise it is you pick the lowest thing and fix that, because
my charisma.
Yeah, raising the lowest item on a list will raise the average quickest for everything, because it by itself is probably dragging everything down the most. Picking your strongest stuff and raising that. In other words, maybe you've got a game that has strong graphics already, and you're like, I'm going to work on the graphics some more. It's like, well, you probably aren't going to move the needle too much, because if your game is already pretty good looking, making something else a little better looking isn't going to help.
Yeah, but you got these weak little muscles trying to hold up. Yes, like this huger.
That's exactly.
And it's going to topple under any scrutiny. It's
can't
just fall over.
Yeah, they can't hold it up, and so you end up doing things like, what the best thing to do is, work on your weaknesses. We basically left things like sound and some of the VFX stuff for a while, and now we knew those were low averages, but we waited because we just knew, well, let's get all this other stuff nailed down and then come back and just spend a lot of time on that. And we did. And it was amazing, because the game went from like 0 to it seemingly seemed very unfinished, and then suddenly it seemed very finished. Like it went from because we were like, oh my god, this thing is not done at all, and then suddenly it was like, oh my god, this game is really done now. Like, this is crazy. But that it just worked out well. I mean, for you, I noticed you're doing in Savage, you got things like music and sound and VFX and all that stuff, but you're doing, am I right, you're doing all the music for Savage yourself.
For better or worse.
Yes, a lot of music. I didn't realize, listening to your streams, that when you took a little break and you put on some music, most of the time that was just music that you made yourself.
Yeah,
for Savage.
I mean, that's to combat YouTube copyright claim.
Oh my god.
When I eventually like take the live streams and I archive them on YouTube, like if
gotcha,
any of that is not mine,
yes, immediately flagged.
That music's gonna get struck down by the YouTube gods, and I'm gonna be like, fuck.
Well, they'll mute it too, won't they?
Depending. It depends on who owns the music and what. I guess like somebody who owns the music and they have their content put through the YouTube database or whatever.
Sure.
I suspect that certain groups can decide what happens.
Yes.
Like, 'cause some of them will just be like, just make money off it for me.
Right. Monetize this.
Yeah, some of them are like, nope, nothing. You mute this, or your video's locked. Like, I've had a few of those like happen to me. I'm like, you know what? Just make it simple on me. I'm just going to use my old crusty music and then just...
I wish we...
Because I know I own this, so...
I wish we had that. That's something that, like, we... some of our music is composed for us, and I'm not too worried about that. But even that, we've had little issues with it. I think what you did is the right way. Obviously, if it's an option for somebody, it's a good option.
And it's not for everybody. I mean, and there's only so much time I can put into that too myself.
Yes.
Obviously. So I wish I could just like sit down for like 6 months and compose this epic.
You did 2 epics for us. You did 2 epics for Boss 101.
I'm glad that you think of them that way, but
those are so good. Matt has two songs in the game. We won't even bother. I'll just tell you that. Well, I'll tell you that one is the well, they're both theme songs for 2 different things. So yeah, he put these together. One of them is an old song that you'd done a while ago.
From like 2008 or something.
Right, and then another one is quite quickly composed, but still ended up hitting the mark. So both those are in the game. They're both Matt productions. How much more music do you, for Savage, do you hope to go back and make some more music, or are you going to use your current catalog?
Oh, I'm going to make more.
Okay.
Yeah, there's at least like 6 tracks or so that I still need to do. Some more
tracks to go.
And I mean, if I'm really like ticking off stuff on the wish list, it's like I want a theme song for every boss, and I want
of course
theme songs for every level and every like day night cycle and like all that stuff.
My God, that'd be great.
But we'll see. Who knows?
Oh man, that'd be great. That's awesome. Do you expect? I know that obviously the question we probably will have to ask at some point in this particular podcast is to say, when do you expect? Boss, we had the same problem Boss One. We got asked all the time, when is it going to come out? Like,
Yeah.
when is it going to come out? When is it? And honestly, every answer I gave was honest at the time. It seemed soon.
Yeah, and you kind of have to keep yourself.
You
Like-
gotta feel it's coming. You can't feel like it's, if a game is so far out that you're in nebulous land, like, there should be some target. But that said,
Yeah, you may as well lay it down and die.
yeah, like, 6 or 7 years from now, like, it should be done.
I'm gonna lay. And that's not the case, but but yeah, like, realistically for me right now, it's there's like 2 months of hard work
Yeah.
to. I suspect maybe like a month and a half or so of like till I hit beta. I really wanted to be done this year. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, you're where we were, maybe.
But I suspect I'm gonna get real close to like a good solid beta where it's like everything's
Sure.
in. I can play start to finish.
Yep.
Maybe it might not be all the music's done, and it might need some balance passes.
That's a huge moment.
maybe a
right
couple
there.
extra, like, this place could use an extra enemy. This, but yeah, mostly for me right now, it's like level design. Like, I just need to make more levels. Like, and I'm maybe 60% of the way there with like just rooms. It just needs rooms.
Sure.
That's mostly all it needs right now. Like, all the bosses are done except for one. Just one boss needs to be finished. And there's of course there's like a huge wish list where it's like, like, I want more optional areas. I want some extra bosses. I want some, but
Once you get that,
and that
pass,
can go on forever and ever and ever. But
yes, that is an eternal pass right
yeah,
there.
you kind of need to. The line must be drawn here.
And no further.
Yeah.
That's it though. But once you get that playthrough, or at least it was a big thing to get, because we had a playthrough at some point. But I think that first time you have, like you're saying, a playthrough that you feel like, this is my beta, this is truly the entire game as it structurally sits, that is like a tipping point. Because from then, that was the point we started really feeling it was almost over. Like, that was, and that was a few months before we actually shipped. But it was close. Like, it took a long time to get there, but once we were there, we're like, oh wow, this is actually gonna.
Yeah, I feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Some of it's a little murky, where
Sure.
it's like I don't know, quite. Like, I'm breaking down the rest of what I have to do into areas. Like, on my world map, I've got like the Gosen Hills. You start out in, you go into the highlands, you go into the snowy mountains, which is called Vanaheim, and then you cross the ocean to the south, and you have a desert,
Gotcha.
and a Mongolia type steppe
Awesome.
region, and like a swamp. And it's like I've got the northern half of the map done, and a few other areas that I'm kind of like piecing together south of that. But like the first half of the game feels like rock solid. I'm like, okay, I'm really happy with this. Yeah. I just need a few other spots to make the rest of the world map matter, and to be like good.
Yeah.
Like, I can't.
Your game has a lot of stuff.
Can't
in
just
it.
throw in, like, there's a fucking room there. Okay, done. And then link it up to a boss, and that's like,
Yeah,
okay,
you don't want to do that. That's disingenuous to the game. Like, you've already,
it'd be a big fat why.
Yes, and you
that
spent so
point.
much time on it already. Like, I think the thing is, once you've spent that much time, you really want to just. I mean, we felt the same way. You want to polish it to the high polish. Like, at this point, there's
And
no
it's
reason not to.
And it's getting there.
It's more
Every day.
It looks really good. I don't know if people have checked it out, but they should. Can they now? I guess a question I'd have if I was listening, I might go, "Whoa, what about that? Boss 101 is out, but what about Savage?" She says it's on Steam. Is it available if somebody wanted to buy it now, or could they?
No.
But could they buy it?
What I'm doing is like kind of a shareware demo.
Okay.
As I'm working.
So this is for Kickstarters. So the Kickstarter people could
Yeah,
have.
they have access to like
Gotcha.
every ugly like weird thing that's not done yet.
Gotcha.
Like within the development build on Steam.
Sure.
But there's also like a demo that I
Yes.
update the features when I like add a new thing. It's like, oh, now you can pick up corpses and throw
Okay,
them.
so there's a demo you can play.
That's limited. Like it's gated with like the first
Sure.
little region that you can kind of. But there's still like. Depending on how like beast you are at the game,
Right.
like you, it could take you up to like 5 hours, of, like wandering around that first little zone, and you can play that demo,
Sure.
and kind of milk it for like a lot, but you're not gonna get the rest.
Yes.
You gotta wait till the game's out on Steam to play the whole thing.
I do like that. I do think that's...
Well, I'm kind of adopting like the whole, like the Doom thing and the Quake thing, where it's like, yeah, you get the first few episodes, and but then you have to pay for it to.
Oh, everybody bought Quake when I remember that came out. That was like,
Yes.
everybody played that demo. Everybody played the demo, and then that made it a sure.
Well, that came with like every freaking like gaming
good.
magazine,
Oh my god, it was so
like
good.
just packaged. I was like, here's the first
So good,
like
man.
episode of Quake.
So amazing. Yeah, that's the thing is I feel like I have a very kind of strong opinions about early access and stuff like it's rarely done right. That isn't to say there aren't many games that do it correctly or do it in a way that people like, but it's
Yeah, and it can genuinely help.
a lot. It can
Yeah.
be a very good thing for a lot of people, and I do feel like to do it right, you've got to have very high level of communication. That's just a basics. But I think a lot of times a developer, not all of them, again, some of them, and this is just based off what I've seen on Steam specifically, they just don't have enough communication, and you end up kind of wondering, well, I put money into this game, and well, what the hell happened to this guy? Like, he's disappeared now. I haven't seen anything for months. Like, people are all over the forums complaining, and
Yeah.
that's
Did they die?
Yeah. That happens with Kickstarters too. They just kind of peter out, and you just sort of wonder what happened. And people are like, "Where's all this stuff? How come you haven't heard from this guy? Like, what? I thought we were going to get an update. You told us this thing was almost done." And it's that was one of the reasons we just didn't do a Kickstarter. Not because it may not have generated some money, but I was like, I had to prove on some level. I felt like it was better to just kind of tough it out independently. Mm-hmm. But we ended up doing probably as many updates as we would have done on a Kickstarter or more. Like.
Yeah, you.
we did it as if it was a Kickstarter.
Yeah,
honestly.
you guys, that dev blog that you do every week,
It's dense.
and like just posting screenshots and little bits of information,
Yeah, and the videos. We just did the video thing
between
today.
those.
Yes,
Like you would have run a very good Kickstarter.
I think that was the idea was
Like leading up to launch. Like there would have been no reason for anyone to doubt that you guys weren't working your asses off on the game.
Yeah, it's tough though, because I see, like, I looked at a lot. Your Kickstarter is a pretty nice one in terms of just the people there, and
Well, I try to pack an update. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't know what to write about.
oh yeah,
So like, weeks will go by, and then like I finally have like accumulated enough of a patch list and like enough of a because also like people are playing it too.
Yes.
So I'm like I try to tie in a big feature rich patch update with the game, along with like some nuts and bolts of like
Gotcha.
how is this being made, what's and what's coming. So I try to make it like almost like a zine, like a magazine type.
That's awesome.
Type sort of thing, and that's just sort of like naturally evolved into that sort of thing. I get to the point where I'm like, okay, do people would they rather have some steak, or would they rather have like Taco Bell?
Right. What do they want?
Yeah,
Nacho
and I
Bell
feel
Grande.
like I can't do the big juicy thing like every week. Like I'm that's why I'm impressed with what you're doing. I'm like,
It's like
I couldn't keep that. I've tried to do the weekly
Sure.
thing, and I'm like I run out of just stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
If there's like a specific thing that is taking longer,
Yeah.
like it feels weird to just like write up a post like midway through. Like I'm like,
we have a few
this
of those.
is kind of what I'm hoping it'll turn out
Yep.
like, and
We have a few of those, a halfway, like a third of the way. Here's some step by step of stuff we did. It's one of those things that I think we, for me, I don't want to say we got lucky, but I spent like a lot of time when I was writing just making it a habit, like just saying I'm gonna just do this, and it was brutal. Like, I mean, the first few months, that's 12 updates right there a week. But sorry, it was more because I would do two update at least once a week, if not twice, of screenshots. So it'd be really 3 updates a week. There's one main one and 2 or small ones.
yeah, that's nuts.
And it was just like, I was like, God
I mean, like
damn.
I cheat though because I have the Twitch channel.
Yeah.
So if I'm not doing an update, I'm like streaming or I'm like posting on Twitter or something.
Yeah, so that's something. But
Yeah.
we don't do the Twitch streaming. We just would be just like, oh God, these updates. Like there's been updates where I'm just like, Like, where do we go with this? Like,
Uh-huh.
because you want to talk about it, but then you realize to talk about it, it's so convoluted or it's difficult to describe. But then you just end up kind of. Most of the time, I just sit down.
Yeah, you wind up in the weeds somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like,
A lot
what was
of
I even
times-
talking about? Like,
Yeah, a lot of times I would really sit down and play the game and look for something that if it was this week it went in, look at that. And then sometimes I just look at features and go, oh man, we never did talk about how the super bombs work, or we never really did talk about how this worked.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then it'd basically be this, oh, I bet you didn't know this is in the game kind of thing. And there's a lot of those. Like I'd say a good 40%, 50% of that kind of post.
If nothing else, Boss 101 does not suffer from a lack of just like stuff.
Oh my god, there's
Raw
so much
stuff.
There's so much stuff in there. There's so much. Yeah, there's a ton of things. But you have that too. Like you have a lot of organic stuff. Like, and I'm always impressed with the things like. I remember when I first watched the game, the guy Kel was throwing, main character Kel was throwing knives into the trees and then jumping up and using those as ladders, and I'm like, oh my god, is that crazy? And then guy like when he climbs up on a ledge, it's all animated. He jumps on the edge of a ledge and reaches himself. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
There's some things I feel like I over-designed in there.
It looks great though. Well, the players will never think that. The players always think that's great. I mean, they'll think it was just a given. And him picking up animals and bricks and things like that, picking up an animal and throwing it, or picking up a brick. But things like
it is pretty fun to throw things.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Well, even when he throws a animal or a person onto spikes and then he gets embedded in the spikes, it's like there's just stuff like that, like to walk across them. Yeah, to walk across like a bed of spikes using an enemy's body as a carpet, basically. It's just stuff like that those are little things, and maybe it was hard, maybe it was easy, but I'm sure every player is just going to appreciate that. They're just, even if they only do it once or twice, they're like, the fact that it's there is just something incredible. Like,
here's hoping.
I think so. I really do feel like Savage is on its way to being something. Well, it's already there, I think, in the sense you've already put that stuff in, but I think it is on its way to being something real special, where I think a lot of people are going to look at it in 5 or 10 years and go, holy crap, that thing was amazing. Like it's just like that's the idea, right? You want to have something that ideally, 10 years from 20 years from now, some kids are like, oh man, I played Savage when I remember thinking like, this is really cool. You could do all these fun things, and that's it, right? If the game's fun, you've succeeded on some level. Like you've really made something if people are saying it's a fun game.
Yeah. If somebody talks about it the way I talked about Mario when I was,
oh my god, yes.
An annoying
Mario.
little brat.
First time you go into a pipe in Mario, you're just like, what?
Yeah, what?
Holy
just
crap!
happened?
What is that? Yeah, it's a stunning moment where nobody told you about that.
Yeah, totally unexpected.
Yeah, but I don't even know what made me want to go down that first pipe. Like accidentally, I think I pressed down more or less.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, this is amazing. Are all the pipes like this? Like it was.
And then you duck on every single one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or the first time you jump and hit your head on a brick and it pops, and you're like, oh man, invisible bricks too? Crazy. Like that game has it all. That is one of the most. And see, they just made it fun. Like I can, not to say this would happen today, but I almost can imagine today if that game came out, people
oh yeah.
Why is there invisible bricks in the world? Doesn't make any sense.
Only played an hour of Super Mario Brothers. 4 out of 10, not enough bricks.
Not enough bricks. I went down a pipe. It makes no sense. This game is just all over the place. Doesn't know what it wants to be.
Total YouTuber bait.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I feel like these guys I wish if they just organized it a little more. Why is he in a weird world with flying bullets? Doesn't make any sense.
It's like they didn't care.
Bullets don't fly like that. Not big
They don't
bullets.
have faces.
They wouldn't go that slow and have a face. Why does he have
Certainly can't jump on a bullet.
Why does a flower make you fiery and big? It doesn't make any sense. Don't like it. But that's the kind of thing, like when you make a game for fun, you don't think that. You just think,
no.
What's fun? You could tell the Nintendo guys, when they made that at least, there was no common sense applied. It was just like, what's fun?
Yeah. I think that's part of the surprise of it,
That's what makes it awesome.
Yeah,
like
you don't expect anything because it's not based on any...
Yeah. You're in wacky time. Like you've accepted wacky time, and once you get rolling in that world, you're like,
the only way you know anything is by going through it.
Yes.
And then it becomes a meme afterwards.
Yeah.
After people have been playing it for 30 years.
It's awesome. Like but when you first, when you first play it, you just don't. It's so out of the blue, and so it's exactly the opposite feeling, which is also the game I'm about to mention is also classically amazing. in terms of gameplay is Tetris, where you play Tetris and instantly everything about Tetris is understood in the first few seconds.
Yeah.
And it never changes. It just, your skill increases as the game goes on. But you start building things, and you realize everything in that game that happens is absolute direct agency of your own. Like, you made the stacks at the bottom because that's the way you put them. Mario has a lot of wacky things happen, and you're just like, did I do that or not? Like, I can't quite tell. Like, but it's fun. Like,
where the hell did that come from?
Where did that come from? What is that about? Like, why am I jumping on a flagpole?
Yes.
For any reason. Like,
it's
like,
it's not safe.
It's not safe. What am I doing here? Why did I freeze when I jumped on it? Who cares? It's like, there's stuff like that, but it's just fine. It doesn't matter. It's like, they made it to be fun, and you can tell they had a lot of fun making it, and the game is made with great care. I mean, that's, that philosophy permeates, certainly. I think, you're designing a different game than Boss 101, but you're designing a game like that. We designed an entire game around that. That was like, just making it wacky and fun. Like, it doesn't matter. It's consistent with its own worldview, but it is not this world.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like in Mario, as long as every time you hit your head on a brick,
yes,
something happens,
you're fine.
Then initially it's kind of weird.
Yes,
but then you're like, okay, just keep going.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, skids do a stop and all that weird stuff that wasn't really in any game like that ever. Like, it was in Super Mario Brothers, the 2-player game, I guess, in the arcades when I was,
the screen wrap one.
Yes. It was fine, but it was, you look at it now and all that stuff, somebody had to design it. I mean, that's just all.
Yeah, they had to think about it first.
It's all
they had
given.
to come
now.
up with it.
Somebody had to come up with it, and they're like, why can't we just turn around instantly? It's like, well, it doesn't feel exactly right. It seems a little weird. It's like, well, skid. And he's like, I'm sure the programmer's like, skid to a stop. What? It's going to take forever to code that.
What kind of missile?
Why does it go so slow? Why do they have eyes? Like, he's got the same questions as the critic. He's like, why are there flowers that make you big? Why can't they just be a grow pill or something? Like, doesn't make any sense. Why do I go down a pipe again? He's not big enough. The sprite isn't the right size. Like,
would he drown? Is there water in there?
Was that an elevator? It doesn't look like one.
What about sewage?
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's just like, but that's the kind of thing where you go, okay, at some point you just got to, bite the apple and enjoy the world. Like, you can't just constantly look at it. But some games get a pass, and there are games that come out now that have that. They're just wacky, fun games, and people enjoy. I didn't play, but Joshua did at Hat in Time, and he said that was really fun, like kind of a world, kind of a wacky world thing.
That's a new one, yeah.
And it looks, it's one of those things. It looks cool. Like, it looks like a fun. He let me play just a second to see the controls.
Yeah, initially it's very appealing, like, visually.
Yes.
I've only seen it like briefly on Steam, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, and it looks really, really, really good. And there's a few other games like that I think I was surprised at how well they played, and the fact that they were in their own little world. Like, they were kind of in a universe where you felt like there's stuff going on outside this game itself. And again, not every game needs to have that. Games that I like games like Nuclear Throne, which I don't know that there's anything happening in the Nuclear Throne world outside the Nuclear Throne itself.
Yes.
Right? They're sitting around a campfire at the beginning, Roly Fish, Chicken Head, and
Triangle Man,
and strong guy Goofus.
They're
they're all there, and you're like, did they come from somewhere? That doesn't matter.
Are they friends?
Yeah, are they friends? Are they all sitting there for a reason? But it's all cool. It's got the elements of something that you think, like, maybe there is a big world there. Maybe there is a big thing. And, but you never know. Like, Lufrausers, which is also a Vlambeer game. Mm-hmm. It's like, you get the sense that's in a somewhat of a world, but again, it doesn't matter. It's more of an arcade game. Their games are more arcadey, and they kind of give you...
Their games are more about, like, the feel of
the feel of
how
like
the things are moving around,
like a chunky feel and a solid gameplay experience, and that's great. It's definitely, people love that stuff. And SNK games, the Metal Slug, because that was a game we looked at a lot when we were doing Boss 101. That was actually just considered to me that is one of the most premier 2D side-scrolling games.
That one's so funny because, like, content-wise, it seems like such a throwaway.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like dime a dozen action movie thing, but it's all the weird little things in it.
You can do so much in that game.
Yeah, well, like all the little POW guys and stuff, and they got like a billion
Camels
animation,
everybody's
animation and shit. Like, it's ridiculous.
They made that game so good that even 30 years later, people are still looking at it and going, "Holy crap, that is!"
I would love to watch a documentary on Metal Slug.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if there is one.
I wouldn't doubt that those guys. I don't know that they. how they even made that game. I've seen the sprite sheets. I've looked at them. They're available online. You can look at them, and they're most incredible.
Yeah,
things.
and you there are certain enemies in the game where you look at them from like a design perspective, and you're like, oh well, clearly like that thing's not just a bunch of frames. Like they're programmatically like moving some stuff around it.
Yes.
But then you look at the sprite
It's all
sheet, and
frames.
it's like, no, they just drew it.
They just drew it. Like there's robots that are so well rendered in kind of a 3D thing. They turn their heads and stuff, or machines.
Yeah.
And
like
you think-
things with like moving plates
Yes.
and like scales and stuff and whatever else. Like the big crab monsters.
Yeah, the crab. That's just a little. There's a later one, a giant missile throwing Nazi robot with laser beam eyes. That I remember seeing it the first time, and I thought, like you're saying, I thought, oh, this must have some 3D elements in it, or something that is basically programmatically faked.
Right.
And then I saw the sprite sheet for it, and I was like, oh my god, they drew everything. It's got like 10,000 frames of his head turning. That's insane. Who drew this? Like,
Yeah.
And and what's funny is that game, that was one of the games that, and looking at some of the other games online on Steam at the time, Broforce, Metal Slug, they kind of informed the resolution of Boss 101, because I think Metal Slug is drawn at like, I think it's some absurdly low resolution. I want to say it's like 320, 200 or something like that. I don't know that it's that low.
Yeah, I mean you can see the pixels on the.
But I remember seeing it and going, when I took a screen cap and then reduced it down to where everything was 1-to-1 ratio.
1-to-1, yeah.
I was like, oh
Like the
my
size of a
god!
stamp.
Yeah, I was like, how did they do this? It's like working on a pin of rice, like just this little head of rice drawing.
This
I was
insane universe is happening.
oh
Like,
my god! It was just, and it's so rich and so detailed, and these guys just, the people that did it did such an amazing job, and it really was epic. And it still is epic to go and look at the frames. Like I've looked at Metal Slug 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I have borrowed colors
Oh, they're
from
incredible.
their palettes and stuff, and they're like, you know what? I need a shell thing.
Yes.
What can I? Hey,
Oh, yeah.
Metal Slug did it.
Metal
Like,
Slug does that thing.
There's a good orange. Let me go. Yeah.
Oh, there were explosions in Boss 101 that were,
Oh, Metal Slug is the best for explosions.
oh god, they're so good. But we ended up looking at those. At first, we were paying homage to them. We ended up changing all of our explosions over to more Boss 101-y things. But
Yeah.
there was a period where originally
Boss
we had
101 has good explosions too.
those things. Those were fun to do. And but that was all based off of the thinking behind it. Was a lot of sort of the elements of the classic. There's a white frame, a black frame, and then there's a kind of an
It's like
explosion.
flash colors.
Yeah, there's the flash. It always starts with the white and then it goes to black. And sometimes we
and
flash.
they're never like as complicated as you think too.
Never.
Like it's like all of a sudden there's a big circle.
Yeah,
But in your like a novice animator like
Yes.
me would try to
Oh yeah, you try to animate everything
the
first.
circle coming into being.
Well, and then you have like situations where
And you miss out on that punchiness.
yes, a lot of it is a lot of the animation in every game, or when you get the punchy stuff, it's all about
It's like one or two frames.
Yeah,
It's not-
dense at the beginning and
Yeah.
then slow, then space out everything after that. So in other words, like all of our explosions are like start at, let's say, frame 0, or 1. Frame 1, there's a white flash, a black flash, and flame 2, and then maybe we go back to the white. But what happens from that point on is we draw an explosion slowly dissipating. It starts small, kind of goes big, and then it fades out. But the spacing between the next part of the explosion all the way out to the end is something like, let's say, 20 frames. The explosion happens over, let's say, half a second.
Yeah.
So let's say 30 frames. You go 1, 2 has
You
frames.
got that big attack, the big spike at the
Yeah,
beginning.
the big
and then-
spike at the beginning. So then there's a frame on 3, and then maybe there's a frame on 5, and then a frame on 8, and then a frame on like 12, and then 20. Something like that. But you look at it and you think, oh, those aren't going to work. This is going to be on screen too long. But they absolutely work every time, and it looks great. Like once we had that pattern down, everything just fell into place because we just made everything like that. We'd say, well, let's just do the same amount of frames, make everything the same timing, and it adds a consistency to everything too. You go, okay, explosions are like they work like this. This is just the way they are. You don't go, explosions. Every new explosion's a new Renaissance painting. No, it's not. Like you're going crazy. Like just don't do that. But the thing is, that's the one thing that Metal Slug, you can't know unless you frame by frame it, or unless you somehow had access to the code where it shows you how they display it, because all that stuff is absolutely hidden unless you're doing an incredibly deep dive into the mechanics of the game. But it's there if you want it. I think I did do frame by frame just to see how they timed their explosions, and it was similar. Theirs is obviously, those guys are superior animators. I mean, they're just like,
they're not even human.
No, they're not. They're
the SNK guys are just like
the waves crashing on the ocean in the beginning. I was like, these are just throwaway things, and they made them amazing. Then they have like a whole sub level where you're like tooting around and this giant eels are attacking. It's like, what? Like,
and that's why I want to watch a documentary on that game.
I can almost imagine they must have had so many, because you know they're in Metal Slug 2 or 3. There's branching paths, and you may not see.
Yeah.
There's like a whole ocean thing that you can avoid totally.
Yeah, you get in like a submarine and stuff. And,
and then there's a part where you go to the top of a mountain, or you get up in some hills, and you can go up or go across. And I think if you go up, you end up in one boss that like chases you up a giant steeple, and it's like all these kind of cave fighting. But that's absolutely unavailable if you go a different direction. And I'm just like, they threw all that away.
Millions of hours of work that may never be seen on your first playthrough anyway.
Yeah, it's insane.
By the average person.
By most people, because those games are hard. Like I played...
Depending on how many quarters you brought with you.
Oh my God. I think I've only finished one Metal Slug game in the arcade, and it was only because I was at a free-to-play one.
Yeah, it might have been one that I beat, and that was it.
Well, all of them built off each other, so like... 2 was like had levels from 1, but then some extra, and then 3 had levels from 1 and 2.
Yeah, they were kind of like iterations of
They got that's what made it like if you tried to jump in and compete with like Metal Slug 4, you were dead because there's no way. Like that was already 4 games worth of content in it, and it was just retarded. Like they
were like expansion packs.
They're like, let's just add a few more levels and put Space Hitler in here, and they're just like, because then the third one,
Mecha Saddam.
Did you finish 3? Did you ever finish Metal Slug 3? Because it does have space. It has like. You fight Space Hitler, you fight this guy right at the end, and it's Hitler basically. And then at the end, he gets kidnapped by aliens, and you have to chase the aliens into space, and you're just like, what? Like it's just
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, you're flying into space with spaceships.
But I didn't get there on my own.
In a shooter, no less. You've got 2 guys. If you have 2 guys together, you're like in a shooter, shooting these alien shaped spaceships, and then you go into their spaceship. I think you have to fight your way through the spaceship, and then I think you fall back to Earth. It's so insane. Like I'm pretty sure you fall back to Earth and fight somebody on the way down.
I still want a Neo Geo.
Oh God, I had a Neo Geo.
Oh my God.
It was so expensive too.
Yes. The cartridges, they're like 5
I had a Neo
pounds.
Geo and Samurai Showdown 2, and it was
Samurai Showdown.
And I had 2 Neo sticks or whatever they were called. I think the entire outlay was close to $1,000 at the time, because Samurai Showdown was
I didn't know anybody that had one.
It was so expensive. It was like I spent all my money that I had on like I think
forever.
For a long time. It was ridiculous. Well, I got my first credit card in college so that I could buy a Neo Geo online. That was the only reason I got a credit card. I was so pissed because the credit card limit,
Neo Geo credit card.
Yeah, it was a Neo Geo credit card, and it was exactly its limit was right at the Neo Geo's cost. So I was able to get the Neo Geo, and I was like so angry that it was,
I was
like
paying for that Neo Geo for the next 15 years.
That was so expensive. That thing was so expensive. Oh my God.
What happened to it?
I sold it. I sold all my It was at a time when I was moving around a lot, and I sold like a ton of gaming. I remember I sold a bunch of Sega and Nintendo.
I did that a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Sold my collection.
It's hard to kind of cart that stuff around because some people are like, if you just saved it, you'd be $10 million richer. It's like, no, that isn't the case, because the problem with all that stuff is like action figures and Cape Jawas and things like that from 100 years ago. I'd have had to store them effectively because that means, let's say I had. Let's use Star Wars figures as an example. Let's say I'd have saved all my Star Wars figures, never opened them, and then kept them till now. They would be worth a lot of money, but how much would it have cost me to cart those fucking things around and store them for the last near 40 years?
Or just like miss out on opportunities because you had to stay in the same place.
Yes.
Because you knew that you had a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Would one day be worth something.
Maybe worth something with someday. I mean, only recent investment I could think of that I saw this online just as a ridiculous thing was, did you see the I think it was the Lego Millennium Falcon or the Lego Death Star, one of those two.
No.
Lego Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
I think it was a Lego Millennium Falcon is the one I'm thinking of, but it was available in like 2008. I think that's when they released a Lego version of it. It was pretty nice.
Now.
And it was out of print.
Of it.
And I think it was that one, or it could have been the Star Destroyer, whatever one. It was a big set. It was one of the bigger sets. That thing is like $6,000 right now.
Oh my God.
So you could have bought it for like $500 or $600, which it was. It was very expensive at the time. But
Lego are already like
and then it just
an arm and a leg.
It's price.
You need a Lego credit card.
Yes, you need a Lego credit card to get it. But the price just catapulted because it became this ridiculously sought after item because they made it, and I guess they've made more Lego Millennium Falcons since then, but they're not the same. They don't have quite the same things.
They don't come with that version.
Yeah,
of
that
Han
version of
Solo
Han Solo. Now it's got the Rey and Finn is in it now, and it's not quite the same.
I don't want that one.
I don't want that one. I want the one with Chewie.
Yeah.
I want the one with the little chessboard in it and cool. But they had all that stuff was in there, and that was just one of those. But that was a short time period. It's like less than 10 years. Whereas, I remember my friend was so into Star Wars figures, and he collected all that stuff, and he had a place about as big as yours, and one room.
Like now here.
Yes.
Yeah.
One room, his bedroom,
Which is to say tiny.
is huge. Well, huge in the sense that he had 2 of his rooms were full of figures.
Oh my God.
Full, like ceiling to floor, full.
Like if this room.
Yes, 10 by 10, 12 by 14, whatever you size, full of figures, and he was amazing because he kept them all in boxes and stuff, and he sometimes sold them, but I don't even know, man. I wonder how much he could sell all that stuff for now if he hasn't already. It's insane. It's crazy. But yeah, that stuff is nuts.
Yeah, I guess if you have to hang on to it, you want to do it like he did.
Yeah, he did it. He did it the right way. I went to many Anaheim and Pasadena toy shows because they have like some every week or every other week, and they have like little toy collectors, Star Wars collectors get together, and they have their shows and stuff. And the tables would just be full of guys that are at the time when they're already in their 50s that were just collecting these things and had bought. This would have been in the mid 90s. This was like 20 years ago. They would have bought like a figure, held on to it, and then they're like, I'm selling a Y-wing fighter, A-wing fighter. I think that was the big one. A-wing fighter was really expensive, and I remember I wanted.
Yeah, I never see those.
They had them. They
Like
sold
the
them.
OG line of toys. Like
They
had everything. Like
They did.
every stupid like little like peripheral character and shit. It's like that guy had a name.
Yeah, like they had like all these. Yeah, you found the
Hammerhead
name of all the guys. I had Hammerhead. He was great.
Yeah.
Hammerhead was cool. He was in the cantina. Yeah, I had that guy. But all those guys came out, and then and they were all like.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't have an A-wing.
And they had
I've
the
never
A-wing
seen
was
one.
one of the last ones I believe that they made because A-wing showed up in
Jedi.
and they made A-wings. Could put the figures in it, and they were nice.
And it's funny because like if you watch Jedi, I mean like I did when I was a kid, like it was like you barely kind of got a sense of those ships either.
They're
like,
just there.
Yeah. Like they're on screen so quick
Yep.
that you don't even. It's like it's
were the
like a
B-wings?
smaller X-wing or something.
Yeah, were the B-wings in?
B-wings were also Jedi.
Okay, only in Jedi.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, the B-wings were like one of those other ones where you just kind of like, okay,
You
those are
only ever
cool.
saw them from the back. It was like, oh, that's a weird pattern.
Yes.
And then they go. Phew.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. And there's sort of
It's
these.
not so
wacky
later
things.
that you see like a model or
Yes,
something like.
and you're like, oh, they
And
rotate?
you kind of hold it up to the TV, and you're like, that's what it was.
Yes, and the A-wing was like that. And I remember that they had the action figures that were like, the kits were like $40 at the time, Kenner kits, and then they went up to like $800 in the 90s. They were so expensive. They're so unbelievable.
Well, there was a glut where there were just no Star Wars toys.
Yes.
And I remember because I got into Star Wars like well after that the Kenner line and all that stuff, and like there were just no Star Wars toys up until like 2000 or something.
Oh yeah, because you came in.
There was just
like,
nothing. Like I had a friend who, his brothers, they were older than he was, and they had all that stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, if I wanted a Star Wars toy, I had to get some obnoxious, stupid little like bendy thing. It's like I want the old stuff. Or
Yeah,
I
the
want
old
a new
stuff.
version of that.
I had like a Darth Vader case that held all my stuff. I'm pretty sure it was. A
Yeah,
Darth
they
Vader
had a
one.
giant R2.
Yes. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
They had the Death Star, like a kind of a Death Star cutaway thing you could play on. Had an elevator in it. Had a gun. It had all
Yeah.
this stuff. But yeah, you had all that stuff, and it was so crazy how big Star Wars was. I mean, it's certainly as big as anything you've ever seen out for that time, especially given the fact that there was no internet or anything. It was just on TV. People like newscasters like, oh,
Yes.
people going nuts for Star Wars,
Or
that
like
kind of
with
thing.
me with the Star Wars Insider, which is
Yes.
the stupid quarterly magazine.
Oh yeah, LucasArts, Star Wars,
And
Insider.
they skimped like crazy on that stupid thing. It was
Yeah.
always like 5 pages.
Oh, yeah,
like
they-
on the worst paper.
like they didn't
you know?
care. They're just like,
Yeah.
whatever, these guys.
Like and it's kind of like what do we talk about? There's nothing
what are
happening.
we gonna say?
Like,
George-
Lucas talked about maybe doing prequels.
Well, I remember when Jedi finished, I saw an interview with Lucas, with himself, and I think it's where the quote where he said like, "There won't be any sequels, and if there are, they're at least 15 years away." Like he said, and that
Yeah.
he was right. He basically, and everybody was just like, "Oh no!" and we were just so angry. I was so pissed because at the time I was in my teens, and I'm like, no, you son of a bitch. Like,
Yeah.
that's so, I'll be like nearly 30.
What a dick.
What a dick.
In the meantime, we got video games, which are arguably better than what he eventually
Oh, yeah.
released.
Yeah, when he finally came out with it,
I was like, I'm gonna go back to the video games. This is kind of
well, the prequel didn't, the first one came out the same year as The Matrix, which was unfortunate for the prequels.
that's right.
Because The Matrix was like a watershed.
Or did that come out before that?
Well, 1999, I think it was
Okay.
the prequel. Maybe if it came out in 99 was definitely The Matrix, and I do recall seeing. I thought I saw the prequel
Was
first.
Phantom Menace 98?
Maybe it was. It may have been. It was maybe 98
Yeah.
or 99.
I feel like I was in like
I know that
I feel like I was in middle school when I saw Phantom Menace, and then I was in high school when I saw Matrix.
yeah,
And I saw him in the theater.
I want to say that I got the. I saw the Phantom Menace first.
Okay, yeah, Phantom Menace 99.
And was it May of 99? I think it was middle of summer.
Let's see here.
I think that Phantom Menace came out first, and I saw that.
Yeah,
and,
May. Wow. Yeah.
and then the
May
Matrix
19th.
was afterwards for sure. Because I remember, I saw it, and the person I saw it with actually went to the bathroom during the pod race in the Phantom Menace.
Matrix was March.
Okay, March. So it's earlier.
Yeah.
Matrix was
I have that totally confused.
Matrix was amazing because I remember saw Matrix, blown away, and
Yeah.
then saw that. And I remember during the pod race at the time, a girlfriend, she like left to go to the restroom. She's like, "Oh, I got to go to the restroom." She like took off, and she goes, "Tell me if I missed anything." She left during the pod race, and I'm not kidding. She came back quite a while later, and she's like, "Is this still going on?" And I said, "I was like." I go, it's been going on for like 10 minutes already. And she's like, I left and they were still doing this pod race. She goes, this is so boring. And I go, I was like,
about halfway through.
yeah, I was like, oh, they're not, they haven't beat Waddley Doo or whatever the guy's name is or whatever.
Yeah.
Jowly McJunkins. And I was like, what is going on in this game? It's so crazy. And then like,
that guy's name now.
Watusi, Watusi,
The
Snouty McPherson.
yeah, the dragon-looking
Oh,
guy.
I know, that's the
can't
guy I'm
remember.
thinking of. Snouty McSnauzer.
I don't know.
Mayor McCheese. He's
If anybody's watching this, there's going to be angry comments.
yeah. You guys are old enough to know and they don't know it. There's 1,000 comments and they're all upvoted. Thumbs up on that. Show these guys what's going on. I'm going to make my own podcast where I get the names right.
Yeah. Pod Race the podcast.
Wowtsy McSnoutins. But anyway, that guy, yeah. So,
Snooty McSeahorse.
well, and that whole race was so insane. And then later, and the thing is, I remember.
Saboba.
Wow. That's a good one. Really? Sepulveda? I couldn't
yeah.
verify that one way or the other, but I believe you.
Yeah, just trust me.
Okay. It will never be
Ask no
verified.
questions.
It will never be verified
No.
unless on the internet. So I remember seeing that and then thinking, okay, this is ridiculous. But what really struck me in that particular scene, and then it happened many times later in that same movie, was they seemed to add this ADR, after the dialogue after the fact, of Jake Lloyd, the Anakin, making these weird like woo oh, and he's like oh dear, and he's making all these goofy
Yeah.
kind of a goofy, almost a Ace Ventura type commentary on top of it all.
Yeah.
But he was saying
And
like
it's clearly somebody who's not in a pod racer
yes,
saying this stuff.
yeah, like it sounded like they just
boy.
yeah, that's the
Like
kind of thing.
stuff.
He's oh boy, I got
I can't believe that happened to me now. And-
Yes,
yeah.
and it was really bizarre. Like it seemed so out of place. And so that race happened, and I was like, "This is very long." And then later in the movie, he boobles up to the
Yes.
the
He's doing the
donut
same
ships.
thing.
Yeah, he gets up to the donut
Now
ship,
this is pod racing.
and I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "What is he saying?"
Whoa!
He's like, "Whoa, this is crazy!" Woo! And he's like, "Whoopity whoopity whoopity," and he's like, "Whoop whoop 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 whoop," and he's like flying around and bouncing, and things are exploding, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" He's supposed to be one of the best pilots, like,
and he accidentally
ever.
destroys the not Death Star.
Yeah, the donut star.
Yeah,
He
the
destroys-
donut
He
star.
destroys donut
The Dunkin'-
one.
the Dunkin' star.
with a bite out of it. Like he
Yeah.
destroys partial Dunkin' donut
Uh-huh.
or whatever, the power button for an Xbox. Like he destroys.
Yeah.
He destroys something. Like I was just like, why did this happen?
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops, woo! He makes some funny noises.
Yeah.
And, well, all those, and it had like the dumbest. All the robots were just stupid. They all looked like weird kangaroos. I was
Roger,
like, these
Roger.
things. Yeah, well, that's right. They're like, that's how what they said. Roger, 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 Roger.
Roger, Roger.
It's just too. It was too wacky. Like.
Oh, it is super wacky.
But it's like George Lucas unhinged. Like I feel like
Yeah.
he was absolutely unfettered. And,
But the funny thing about all that stuff is like wacky and like Looney Tunes, as it's not even as funny as Looney Tunes, but you know he's like writing it or like directing it and
yeah.
supervising the ADR, and he's just like,
yeah, so super
okay, that's good.
super stone faced. Like I
Now
imagine
have him go woohoo again. Okay.
he's just like
Now this is pod racing.
yeah.
With a little more,
Pod racing is a key to
a
all
little more
this.
surprise.
It's the key.
Okay, good.
Have Watatusi.
One more woohoo. Yeah, have Watatusi do a backflip and fart. Okay, that's good.
It's
And it's
so
like, you
just
know
like-
that's what's happening
it's so crazy.
because
I just-
we get to see it. Now,
Yeah, we
after
go
the
back
fact.
in the documentary. Clearly points out that everybody is mortally afraid of him, and they won't comment.
Yeah.
Like they won't even. Oh, I told you. I've said this sort of when I went to LucasArts for to work on a game.
Yes, yeah.
The instructions given to the team, everybody that went up there, was very clear.
You
It
went
said,
to Skywalker.
I went to yes. Well, LucasArts
Okay.
was at the time in the if you know San Francisco area, it was in the what's the name of that place under the bridge? The
Yeah.
was a military base.
Sepulpa.
Sepulpa base.
Yeah.
It was there. Now everybody's on the internet. So,
I'll tell you what it is. I'm gonna make San Francisco the
San
podcast.
Francisco. The most-
Is that the podcast? Pod racing podcast. San Francisco racing podcast.
I'm gonna get so we went to there, and that the specific instructions were: if you see George Lucas, do not look at him and do not talk to him do not approach him at all.
Yeah.
You were not allowed. Like you could not do. And I was like, oh, okay.
Did you see him?
Did not.
there?
I wasn't allowed to look around. They put horse blinders on all of us.
Yeah,
now.
just-
Yeah, you can't go. No, we did not see him, but we were scared because I was worried that if I saw him, I'd have to say something. Like I was like, I don't care if I get fired. I gotta say something to this guy because, mind you,
Once in a lifetime opportunity.
yeah, like well, but by that time, I just to put it in perspective, time wise, I was all the prequels had already been out by that time.
Uh-huh.
So Lucas clearly was like probably not in any mood to talk to anybody. I'm
Yes.
sure he was like, I don't want to go to work today. And they're like, come on, George, you got to talk to these people. He's like, only if nobody talks to me.
Who's gonna eat all our salad?
Yeah, it's like they had. By the way, that place was dope. The Presidio, that's where it was. That's the name of the place. And they bought this.
Sounds
It's
like
like
Sebulba.
it's Sebulba. It's almost the same thing. But they had the dopest everything. Everything was just free. You could just go in there and be like, whatever. At least as I recall, like you had this. The food was insane. Like it was
Yeah.
like better than anything. I mean, it was. And mind you, that was just for the people that are like, what's up, everybody? And he
Regular day.
just regular day having
Regular
gourmet
day of
food,
free awesome stuff.
free great
everywhere.
stuff, and it was super nice.
Free metal slug.
Yeah, free metal slug for everybody, and it was just super nice. But yeah, I do remember the thing: do not talk to George Lucas, and do not look at him, and do not approach him. And it's just like, I can imagine, now looking back at, the broken man himself, like sitting in his billions, he's just like going, oh man. I'm sure he's probably secretly, although I would imagine he secretly sniggers and goes, at least I tried something new, rather
yeah.
than like the Force Awakens. He's probably like.
Oh.
Because he even made a comment. There was a little sniggery comment about it. He's like, well, I like what they did, but I already did that 40 years ago.
Yes. And you gotta hand it to him. It's
Yeah,
like,
he's right.
shit, yeah.
He's kind of right. He goes, I
Uh-huh.
wish they'd have taken a little more risk with it. And he's like, but that's their thing now. It's not mine. And he just like jumps in his gold-plated jetpack and flies away. Yeah, he's like, he goes, lackeys, carry me out. And then like these guys rise up, put him on him. Carry him out. And he's like throwing things at people as he goes out. Like
Yes.
yeah, he was definitely. I do feel in some large way he was vindicated with his like. I mean, whether the prequels are good or bad, he definitely tried something new in there. At least he tried somewhat something new, I should say.
There's more to talk about with the prequels than there is with.
There's nothing to talk about with Force
No.
Awakens. There's just another thing about this. Like I was asking this to Joshua. I was like, do you think there will ever be another in the Star Wars mythology anything close to the original trilogy's level of characters that are that fantastical and remembered years and years from 40 years from now. In other words, will there ever be another level of Darth Vader?
Or Han Solo, or
Luke, or Leia, or just even like a Wedge, or character.
The only way you're going to get there is to not try to do it again.
Yes. Well, Ryan
problem.
Wilson. Ryan Wilson's that the guy that's doing the next Star Wars. He's got a whole trilogy now on his own.
Wait, what?
The guy that's directing the Return to Fraggle Rock, the next one that's about to come out,
Yes.
where like Luke and Ray
That's where Luke's hanging out.
are battling on Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
Where they're breaking stones on Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
That guy's been given an entire new trilogy in the Star Wars universe, and he has said it's gonna be all different, and he swore to God it's gonna be completely new and different.
Okay, well,
And he's the one, Looper, and I think Looper.
yeah.
But apparently, Disney quite likes working with him, and they were like, give this guy something to do. And he
Time for a new Star Wars.
New Star Wars in the universe. They're like, we're giving you a whole new trilogy. You can do whatever you want. And so he's doing whatever he
This
wants.
one's going to be about Grand Moff Tarkin's brother.
Yeah, he's like, let me see, who can I relate to this? Like, Boba Fett's best friend.
Yeah, Saboba's
Saboba Fett. Saboba goes off and becomes
Grand Moff Saboba Fett.
becomes a Mandalorian
yeah.
bounty hunter. Like
Yeah.
well, I do worry that it's going to be very difficult for somebody to work on something without having to tie it dramatically into
Yeah.
everything. Like I doubt he's going to be given.
It's a franchise problem. Like you're kind of stuck a
Like-
little.
Yeah.
You're always a little stuck.
Well, here's the question: is it going to be a new trilogy set in that universe, but the Empire and the Skywalkers and all that stuff is pushed way out into the edges? In other words, like it's about this other group of baddies running around.
600 years after the events of Fraggle Rock.
Or even like 6,000 light years away from them. It's just not even near them, and it's like about this. It's about this other, rebel group or this other group of people doing something. Or is it going to be like, it'll be like it starts with on the other side of the Death Star that day, and it just like rotates around to the other side, and you're like going, oh my God, seriously, really?
Yes.
Like I don't want to hear about that. Like I don't want to hear about like what was going on the other side.
Finally, now we know.
Yeah, now we know what the janitor
happened.
crew does.
Yeah.
Like now we know what the TIE bomber guys were doing. Like I don't care about them.
Yes.
I don't want to know.
It's going to be like Ground Zero, but in the Death Star.
Oh my God. I don't want to know what the gunners on the Death Star are thinking. I don't want to know about their lives or families. It's like, it's just too. I don't want to know that like that. I don't want Rian Johnson to retell A New Hope and say that like one of the Empire's agents betrayed him and blew up the Death Star, and Luke actually didn't blow up the Death Star. He just timed that explosion to make it seem like Luke, some weird connection. Like,
But since Obi-Wan Kenobi knows the Force and knows the future a little bit,
yes,
he told that guy to do it so that
Yes.
Luke would have the confidence to
Yes.
eventually become a Jedi.
yes, he said Obi-Wan. Then they'll have a scene where Obi-Wan talks to this guy.
Yeah.
Like they'll have a CG.
Yeah, look, I'm planning on training this kid.
Yes.
It's Darth Vader's kid. Actually, you're Luke's secret brother.
You're Luke's secret brother.
Yes.
You've got Force powers.
There's a third one.
Yes, there's a third brother.
There's a third a fourth, I
Yeah.
guess, Skywalker, because there's Vader and
Duke Skywalker.
Duke Skywalker.
Duke Skywalker, the older brother.
Duke Ground.
Duke Ground Zero Skywalker.
Yeah,
Duke Ren Skywalker.
Duke Ren. Duke Ren.
Duke Ren Skywalker.
Yeah.
He's works on the Death Star, helped supervises the gun firing, and he himself is going to monitor the trench run. And when he sees his brother Luke fire the torpedoes, he's going to set in motion an instant chain reaction that blows the whole place up.
And himself,
Because he knows he's got to die.
because he's got to stand up
Yes, he's going to make a stand.
for hope.
He's trained his whole life for this.
Yeah.
That's
He knows the ins and outs of that trench,
Yeah, he knows it by heart. He's put
like
little,
Beggar's Canyon back home.
Yeah, he's just like Beggar's Canyon, and he's got like a whole series of GoPros set up so he knows exactly where Luke is at all times.
Yeah.
And he even suggests to his dad, Lord Vader, hey Dad, why don't you go out there and fly a TIE fighter? And Vader's like, oh, I don't go out there normally. And he's like, I think this time you should.
It's looking
This is
kind of
crazy.
hairy out there.
This kid is like, I think this kid's got the Force. He may be somebody important. You should go out there. He's like, all right, whatever. And then he knew his dad. He even sent a secret message to Han
Duke
Solo.
is so strong.
Yeah,
in
Duke-
the Force that he does a mind trick.
Yes, he mind tricks his own dad.
Yes.
He double dads him. He tells him a couple dad jokes and then he
Yeah.
sends him on his way. But then Duke makes a secret phone call to the
Phone call.
Corellian freighter that he detects flying on the other side of Death Star. He goes, "Hey, Corellian freighter, I suppose you're out there doing some no good stuff. I've got a mission for you. We've got this guy, Luke Skywalker. He's being attacked by this TIE bomber. Don't destroy the TIE bomber, but knock it off its way, and come in from this angle, and everything will be okay."
Yeah, that's the bounce.
That's the bounce. He
Yeah.
goes, "It's all planned. No, nothing was unplanned."
He long distance mind tricks
Yes.
Han.
Han, yes. Well, that's what Han was
that
on his way.
strong.
Han was flying by the Death Star just to get the hell off the planet.
He was trying to get paid and go
Yeah.
pay off Jabba the Hutt, and
how much doper would it have been if Han Solo just took off?
just didn't come back.
He's like,
He settled his debt.
yeah, he's like, the next scene, there's just a quick cut at the end where he settles the debt and then takes off again.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's like,
then.
yeah, I'm out.
He gets to keep some from himself.
Yeah. He's like, cool.
It's a
Everything's-
property on.
It's all squared away. Shaking hands with Boba Fett. He's like,
Yeah, he
all debts are settled.
he was gonna get some property on Yavin, but he's like, no,
No.
I just came from there, and I don't think it's gonna last too much
I don't
longer.
think it's good real estate.
I saw what happened to Alderaan.
Real estate's going to plummet in price pretty soon.
Yes. How about Endor? Endor looks nice.
Endor looks seems good.
Yeah.
I heard they're building some
Forest Moon even has some.
Yeah, it's good. Let's just go
Yeah.
there. Let's just go to that thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what it's going to be. They're going to connect it all. Like somebody's writing that backstory
They can't
right
resist.
now. No, they
They
can't.
can't
They
resist.
can't have it just be what it is. It has to be.
And it's gonna have the same. The two. I don't like you either.
oh yeah,
I have the death sentence on 12 systems.
it's so bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
I'll be careful. Someone's gonna say they'll be careful to him, and then
Yeah,
you'll
of
be like,
course.
"No, you're gonna be dead.
no. So-
No, you're dead. You're gonna be
Oh,
dead."
God.
It's those two guys again.
yeah, it's so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yes, that will be it.
Yeah, but I think that's a good spot for us to stop.
Yes, I agree.
Like every single other one of our conversations that eventually devolves back into ranting and raving about Star Wars.
Yes, that is.
So
Well,
it's
let's
a
do it. Let's wrap it up
perfect
there.
way to wrap it up.
We could see how the comments
Yeah.
go from that.
So everybody, if you take away nothing else from this, go buy Boss 101 on Steam right
Thank
now.
you. Please do.
And if you'd be so kind, add Savage the Shard of Gosen
Yes,
to your
Savage.
wish list.
Look it up on Steam. It's there.
Yeah. It's better than whatever Star Wars is going to do.
It will be better
in
than the next
future.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Both
And-
of those things are better.
And be more cost effective for hours of fun.
Yes.
I assure you,
Yeah.
it'll be good.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think we should make this a normal thing?
Yes.
Do more of this? in
Do
the
more of
future?
this. We got more of this coming, folks.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. And if you're working on your own projects, good luck. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.
See ya.
Hey!